Hello, hello. I received another error message when I started here. Are people seeing me now? That is the question. Um, it says I'm going live. Hello, hello. I received another error message. Okay. But did you guys miss the opening? Is that it? You guys missed the opening? These things happen? Okay. Well, let's do that then. Oh man, this is is this the second week that it gave me that error message and I had to do things over again, or maybe that was 2 weeks ago, a few weeks ago. Nonetheless, welcome, welcome, welcome. Here we are in Washington D.C. Um, I've tried to make my surroundings a little more pleasant. I don't know what everybody thinks of my more homey chill background here. You can't really see. I've got my copy of Game of Thrones and Blood of the Dragon right there. But nonetheless, and probably my phone will fall off the wall because I went to find a glue gun today and Target didn't have one, so I just put some tape up and it'll just fall down. But nonetheless, the let's talk about Grayscale. I've been thinking about Grayscale a bit, and it's is the YouTube chat the main one you read? It's the only one. There's only one chat. The YouTube chat gets a delay through the Ecamm chat, so um, I see them both, but I pay attention to the Ecamm chat, and then it all filters through. But there's not like multiple places. Um, Once again, asking for the pasta mukbang mukbang. Okay. I gotta cook some gluten free pasta and everything. Jeez. Okay. He's really been harassing me with super chats. I will get it. The thing is, maybe the new year, but less the but let's talk about the Grayscale. So they have they have Target there. I'm in America, man. Tyrannosaurus Jeff. I'm in America. So Grayscale. Um, I've been thinking a bit about Grayscale because obviously there's kind of this fan headcanon that I don't know if there's anybody in the fandom that doesn't kind of think this, but that it's been set up as a Chekhov's gun that there's going to be some sort of Grayscale outbreak, whether a gray plague outbreak, whatever you want to call it. There might, Grayscale is apparently the slow version of gray plague. Is this Grayscale is the slow version of gray plague, but they're essentially the same. And we hear about these outbreaks in Pentos and in Old Town where they slaughter everybody because it's oh my gosh, this disease is broken out. And so the and so we kind of get this idea that there's going to be some sort of outbreak, and that even one of Dany's visions at the House of the Undying, the stone dragon or the stone beast breathing fire, is perhaps a metaphor for the Great Plague outbreak. And we just kind of get this feeling with John Con or perhaps dormant Shireen or whatever, that something's going to happen. And of course, when we talk about these plagues, we're naturally supposed to think about the Black Death in Europe, which hit in the somewhat late Middle Ages. And this story is seemingly a late Middle Age, early Renaissance kind of tale. in Ice and Fire, technologically speaking. Um, so, will there be some sort of event like the Grey Plague or like the Black Death um, hitting the story? Now, there's a few things that make it kind of difficult, and that's that there's just not that much time, and it's now winter, and like, how are people going to be, um, walking around spreading this plague, unless it's one spread through army travel, or if it's maybe through raven travel. Somebody suggested that perhaps it could be on ravens. And the raven idea is that the raven idea is quite curious and interesting, because there was a theory for a long time that the Black Death was spread by rats and fleas upon rats. More recently, this has actually been, historians have doubted this in recent times, but I don't know if it hit George early enough that he would have changed his writing for this. And there is elements of this. It was when Illyrio talks about the Great Plague making it to Pentos. He talks about how the ship was, all the people on the ship were slaughtered, but the rats on stone feet like swam ashore and infected the city. Which, if Greyscale were transmittable through like all of these animals, then I don't know how you'd ever stop it. You could, you could slaughter as many people and it would just spread and spread and spread. So I don't know, that's one of the aspects that doesn't really make sense, is that the diseases really need a vector. And so if you make it too easy for the spread through like animals, it can just be, it's on the fleas and in the rats, or it's on the rats. The rats can get Greyscale, then everybody could just fucking get it. The rats would, travel through the city, and then it would get on some other animal and it would pass to another animal, and it couldn't ever really be contained. George R. R. Martin kind of abstractly kind of says when the plague ran its course, then it just stopped, which I don't know if that's not really how viruses work, which is funny because viruses, they run their course and you have the immune population, but then it comes back in cycles, it's not like the Black Plague just went away. The bubonic plague continued on for a long time. And so it's an odd thing that like Greyscale is pretty much completely gone in Westeros. But they talk about these breakouts. Like it should still be lingering somewhere, not just like something randomly on ships and stuff brought in from the east. The other thing that's really weird about the virus is that it's a pretty brutal virus. It's either the Grey Plague, where it just kills a massive number of people, or it's Greyscale, which is just an utterly horrific disease, an utterly horrific way to go. And yet, how people react to it is completely contradictory, because you have these tales of people slaughtering people to get rid of the disease, but then you have the stone men allowed to live, and Volantis will actually bring up mercy ships with food to allow these people to exist and survive. And which is just hard to believe. Like, why wouldn't you just let them all die, or go up there and kill them? Because this is a horrible, horrible disease. And there's this idea that at least among the wildlings and probably others, that Greyscale can lay dormant and then become the Grey Plague at any time. Like, so why is there this contradictory treatment of the whole thing? Like, why is it's something like, oh, it's not so bad, we'll just keep a Greyjoy up in a tower dying of it rather than killing him, and keep these stone men alive. But then at other times, it's like you literally slaughter people. And then you hear these stories of John Connington talking about Greyscale being this very, very slow process of death that takes years and years and years, and then this great plague that just like, you know, starts spreading like wildfire and killing a city immediately. So, I don't know what George was thinking and how it would ever work. In spreading. I mean, I suppose like marching armies might be a way, but still, like when you think of like the Winds of Winter and A Dream of Spring, how much time is left in the story? You've got at most 2 years, at most. And I'm talking like really realistically, there's like 1 year left in the story because of how stuff is slowed down. Like if you went back to Game of Thrones speed, you could do 2 more years. But really, you've got 1 more year left of story. Is it enough time for Grey Plague or Greyscale to spread? Certainly, Greyscale, even if it's spread hard, like no one would be dying of it. Like everyone would be like, "Oh, I've got a few black fingernails," and then end of story. If it's Grey Plague, it doesn't have enough time to spread more than maybe King's Landing. Is this idea that like John Con goes to King's Landing and there's a breakout in King's Landing, or maybe it could spread on the Ravens, but it's just I don't know how it will ever fit in the story. I think George had this idea, and how the story unfolded, there just isn't enough time, and logistically speaking, how would you have it spread to everybody? I mean, the best I can think of is the Golden Company marching around, spreading it, and but it's still winter. And how fast are they going to be able to do this? Is it going to affect more than King's Landing? Or is it going to affect the entire world? I mean, the Raven idea is interesting, but that relies on this idea that Greyscale can spread to animals or fleas or whatever, which is something maybe George was thinking about. I mean, obviously he mentioned the rat thing, but as a parallel to what was thought about the bubonic plague. But it's I don't know if it works. I don't know if anybody else has any good ideas on how it could work. The best idea that people could have told me is that it's just like it'll be a King's Landing only breakout from John Con, somehow going from dormant to plague, or it'll be spread by ravens is the only other idea, and then it could hit many places at once. But anyway, I don't think anything really makes sense on how people treat it. It's a brutal like disease. Like you'd think you think like these people would just kill them, A favorite country in Africa. About to spend a few weeks in Tanzania for work. Any recommendations? I mean, Tanzania is super fun. You're gonna have a great time in Tanzania. I mean, you get to go to Zanzibar, which is fun as hell. Very beautiful. You can head up to Kilimanjaro. That's and see, there it goes. And then you got the Serengeti. So there's a lot to see in Tanzania. Like, I don't even know if you'll even have enough time to go anywhere else. And the places you would go, I don't know if they would be better. Like, you can go to Uganda, which is also really fun, to go see gorillas or something. But you're seeing a lot more in Tanzania, and there's more beaches and more fun. Everything you can do in East Africa, you can do in Tanzania. The only other thing that's different is Ethiopia. You can go see really beautiful, underground churches. They would dig into the bedrock and carve out all of these churches that are pretty incredible in Lalibela in Ethiopia. So, I mean, East Africa is the place to see like stuff in Africa. For the most part, like West Africa doesn't have that many tourist sites. East Africa kind of has all the sites, and all the sites are centered around essentially Tanzania and Ethiopia if you want to see those churches. But you're already in Tanzania. I don't think there's much reason to leave. Like, you can go to Kenya, but like Mombasa is not as good as Zanzibar, and Mole, not Mole, but More National Park is like not as good as like the Tanzania side, and so Rwanda, Uganda, Burundi, those are all interesting, but that's a big trip. That's a lot of time to invest just to see the gorillas. So I would say like stick to Tanzania, and if you do one other trip, I mean, maybe if you have some more time, go to Ethiopia and see Lalibela or something. First meal back in the States, what was it? I don't know what I had back. Well, we arrived, and I think we arrived, and I went to my sister's house, so I must have had something she cooked. It was Thanksgiving, and then I don't know, had some I had like a shawarma bowl or something, a something bowl, something. But for the most part, like I was, been eating a lot of Mexican and Middle Eastern. I had an and pizza today. It was that was pretty nice. It was pretty nice. Um, is the shepherd secretly Aegon the Second during the dance? I've never heard that theory before. I think it would be pretty difficult for the shepherd to be Aegon, because Aegon goes and does events on Dragonstone, attacking Rhaenyra on Dragonstone, while the three kings, while the three pretenders are ruling. So I don't think it's possible. I mean, the three, you'd have to be in like two places at once. But I'm also trying to think like if it would serve Aegon the Second's interests. Like, the shepherd leads a revolt that like slaughters a bunch of dragons in the dragon pit, and I don't know if that would be anything that Aegon the Second would want to have happen. Going to kill all the dragons. In fact, I'm trying to remember. Let's see here. The storming of the dragon pit. Like, does Dreamfire die during the storming of the dragon pit? Yeah. Dreamfire. Yeah, Dreamfire was killed in the storming, and a bunch of the other let's see, Shirkos, Morgul, Tyraxes, Dreamfire, Cyrax, all the dragon keepers. I don't think that Aegon would be interested in the death of dragons, being a dragon rider himself. And also, I think there's a two places at once kind of situation where Aegon is doing some other things at the time. But nonetheless, an interesting theory. I've recently thought that the Stone Dragon could be referenced to Aegon the Sixth cause, spreading grayscale via John Con. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the basic idea is that they're essentially one and the same. Let me let's see. Let me bring up the Daenerys thing again. Okay, so phantoms shivered through the murk, images in indigo. Viserys screamed. Molten gold ran down his cheeks and filled his mouth. a little silly because you can't really melt gold like that. A tall lord with copper skin and silver gold hair stood beneath the banner of fiery stalk and burning city behind him. That's the Rhaego thing. That's never going to happen. Rubies flew like drops of blood from the chest of a dying prince. He sank to his ease in the water and with his last breath murmured a woman's name. And that woman's name was Old Nan. Mother of dragons, daughter of death. Glowing like a sunset, a red sword was raised in the hand of a blue-eyed king who cast no shadow. Obviously Stannis, and then a cloth dragon swayed on poles amidst a cheering crowd. That's supposed to be Aegon. And then from the smoking tower, a great stone beast took wing, breathing shadow fire. So you're supposed to kind of say like, Mother of Dragons, and then Silver trotting through the grass to Darklings. See, this is her like getting with Khal Drogo, the Darkling stream beneath the stars. A corpse stood in the prow of the ship, eyes bright with his dead face, gray lips smiling sadly. That was Euron, but it got retconned to Victarion. And then a blue flower grew from a chink of ice in the wall and filled the air with sweetness. The story of the story of the blue rose that Ygritte mentions, which everybody immediately goes, oh, it's Jon, and you're like, kinda, but it's a little different. I think that it's not just Jon, like it's like Jon bringing down the wall because of the chink of ice. But here's the thing is that like one thing that kind of is a little weird is that the cloth dragon is obviously supposed to be the Aegon cause, unless it's Dany herself. And then right after you've got the great stone beast. And so you actually have like two things in one place. I mean, I suppose the blue flower and the chink is in the same place as, well, it's not at the time, but it would be in the same place as Stannis, but I guess not at the time. So it's a little weird that like these two events that would be happening together are right after each other rather than combined. Unless Jon Con and Aegon could split up. Jon Con and Aegon could split up, and that would be interesting. If Aegon, for like the Aegon perspective changed into the Aegon perspective, and then Jon Con went off to do some campaign somewhere, and they were not together. Oh, Preston, as a Muslim man, I am boycotting everything Israeli related and stuff. I'm a centralist Democrat, but I don't want to vote for either Trump or Biden. Who should I vote for? What to do? Yeah, I understand that. I understand the anger that people that sympathize with the Palestinian cause would feel for Biden. Biden is very, very pro-Israel, staunchly pro-Israel, and I think it's a little silly because like Trump is so much worse than Biden and also staunchly pro-Israel. I mean, he's the one that changed the American embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, and all sorts of other things. So it's like you really have those two choices, unfortunately, in American politics. We don't have a parliamentary system, and it's I would say that you still have to vote for Biden. Like that's all you can do. It's all you can do. I understand that like it doesn't feel great because Biden is so staunchly pro-Israel, but you're given those two options. And it's just Trump would be much, much worse than Biden. So like, what can you do? What can you do? I understand that like it feels bad. I mean, I don't know what state you live in and if it makes a difference. But something like if you're in Michigan, you don't want to waste your vote. But um, um, let's see. Maybe John Con spreads the plague and Shireen gets burned because of fear. That's all. That's all a possibility. The but um, I don't know. Like, I don't know. All this news coming and stuff. I mean, there might be a fear of Shireen independent of everybody else, but um, I don't know about like ravens coming up and being like, oh, we heard of a grayscale epidemic down south. I guess we better burn Shireen. If it were going to happen for that reason, it would happen kind of independently. Oh, not fleas. What's the new jive? The new jive is just that people were spreading it. That's it. Like, there's no. I'm sorry about this is about the Black Plague. Um, just that people were it, and they're so the idea is that the rats the rats on plague, the rats on the fleas on rats theory doesn't really work because there's no archaeological evidence of mass rat death. To go with all of the mass people death. Like when you dig up these houses and stuff and you find like the mass graves and everything, like you should be digging up like rat bones too, but you're not digging up rat bones. You're not seeing like big deaths of rats. So this is the theory on like why it's not um, uh, rat related or whatever. But you know, if no fanfic, would you ever say enough is enough and stop talking A Song of Ice and Fire? Change directions like Quinn's ideas. Has to get repetitive after a while. Yeah, I mean, sure. It all depends. Like, if there was something else interesting that took off. I mean, if people liked me talking about other things, you know, who knows about the future? I'm open to the future. But people seem to really like me talking about A Song of Ice and Fire, at least. But I mean, certainly I'm trying to certainly over time I've done different things and branched into different things. Like obviously with the live streams, I shoot the shit and I talk about a lot of different topics, which is kind of fun. Um, so yeah, obviously you don't want to just do one thing over and over again. But surprisingly, A Song of Ice and Fire has been rather rich, especially with like House of the Dragon and stuff like that coming out. But yeah, I will change with the times and see what piques my interest and see what piques other people's interests, and kind of make that balance and change. But it's I don't know. People like the I don't know. People seem to be liking what I do right now, but um, we'll see if we'll see what the future holds. I have no idea what the future holds. It's funny to think about, like about people like life in general, and how like people will just run with one thing that they're sort of good at, or one thing that gets them like attention and success. I mean, when I think about YouTube a bit, when it comes to like the difference between creating content and trying to get a lot of views and making money or whatever versus like actual artistic creation, doing what you like. And so I'm gonna release my book next year and things like that, and who knows what I can artistically do. But I do like to I'm not in it for the clicks or the money. I am trying to just do what I think is interesting and fun and influential and artistic, um and so it's weird when you see like somebody creating like an AI generated channel that's like over whatever topic, and they're just trying to like grow something. Like for no reason. Or Carmine was showing me this weird Twitter guy. And oh my god, it was almost like he was in war with them, and then he got blocked, obviously. But I think they were called Westeroses or something. Yeah. And it was just like I didn't understand like why someone was doing it. This was it. And it was just like, you know, he's able to get he's been able, the channel has been able to like accumulate 250,000 like followers, right? And it's just these posts like Iron Throne and Game of Thrones versus House of the Dragon. Okay. All right. The Young Wolf, Robb Stark. Oh, oh, yeah. Okay. Um, and I don't understand what Prince Daemon, House Targaryen, and he I just don't get it. I don't understand what someone gets out of it, except other than the trying to get as many followers as possible as like a goal. Kind of like getting a high score in a video game. But I was very, very just confused about the motivation, because there's nothing artistic to it. It's just posting stuff and trying to get followers. I don't know why anyone would follow that, but like, it's weird. Okay. Hello.
Real quick, I was actually about to make some food, so I won't be too long in
Oh,
here.
really? What kind of food were you gonna make, Carmine?
Actually, we had this discussion a while ago. You told me not to get meat from Whole Foods, but
Yeah.
I got some salmon, so I'm gonna make some salmon and some rice, add a little lemon on top. Very nice. Real quick about that Twitter user you're talking about. What do they
Yeah.
get out? People do get money from like sponsoring shit. You know how like Kim Kardashian, not that that motherfucker's on the Kim Kardashian
Right.
level, but you know how Kim Kardashian gets, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars for mentioning she's drinking so and so, whatever.
Right.
Um, yeah, like basically that. Plus, it's this. It's also the same reason why Trey loves tweeting as much as he does. There's something about tweeting out to hundreds of thousands of people that
Mm,
feels kind of good. Like your opinions matter more than
right.
random Joe Blow's opinions.
Yeah. I mean, I talk about this a bit with like when I run into people, and I talk about like my real job and my channel, like say I go to a party, um, and I talk about my real job and I talk about my channel. People are way more interested in the channel. They're like, "What? You have a channel? What is it called?" No, it's just my name. It's just Preston Jacobs. Pull out their phone, do. And then they're like, "You have 180,000 followers?" Yeah. I mean, in a in this really specific, really small world of theorizing about A Song of Ice and Fire, I'm famous in this really small thing that doesn't matter. Um, but then like there's my job where like I spent a year of my life like researching with a team of people and writing a report, and that report gets read by, if we're lucky, 500 people, and you hope that someone like makes a small change to a bureaucracy, and it's a very, very odd thing, to like something I trained my whole life, like spent many years studying and doing and getting into it and getting paid like, a salary from an organization to do. And how many people read it versus like this, right? um uh I mean, I will say on like a day to day, satisfaction enjoyment level, like this is way more enjoyable. Like it's incredible when you like post a video and you see how many people have watched it, and you see the comments and people are like, oh, this is really
Right.
great and it's made me think about this. You know what I'm talking about. Like it's really great feeling like you have influence and effect
Exactly.
on the world, especially if it's positive. Or the people are enjoying and you're making people happy. um Something that like you don't feel like with my job. It's like if change does happen, sometimes it's like years later and I don't hear about it, like, oh, we implemented that recommendation. That was like 5 years ago. I like, um so it is this really weird thing.
Mhm.
um and so
It,
yeah,
it's 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 a nice feeling. It's a nice feeling
so
to feel like
I
people
guess I've
actually.
answered my own question with like what Westerosis is getting out of it. I mean, that little number of the number of followers. He
By the
like
way,
yeah.
let me just clear that up. I wasn't at war with the guy. I tweeted, I reposted something he said, or she's, I don't know if it's a man or a woman. I reposted something they said, and all I said was, why does this feel like a bot account? So what they did was they messaged me privately and said, look, I'm just gonna block you, okay? Because clearly you don't like me. I don't want to make this hashtag a thing. They actually used hashtag thing in my DMs. So I'm gonna block you. So they just blocked me for whatever. And funny enough, Glidus said the same shit. Glidus said the same shit, and they did kind of post misinformation about George
Yeah,
finishing the
this was
book.
about they posted misinformation about George, perhaps like him meeting with a publisher in Britain being like a thing, and it's like, no, it's not. Like, so yeah, I mean that was it, but it's like it almost doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter what Westeros, like what this site is posting. Like if people were like if it was honestly like pictures of trees, pictures of his own dumps, pictures of like the sky, it would be that, and he'd be like, getting a rush out of having followers and thinking about the number of people that are like seeing his stuff, even though it's just like a repost of a picture of Robb Stark.
Also,
I don't
keep
get
in
it.
mind that that dude's probably making a couple $1,000 because remember, Elon pays you now per like every couple million like
Really?
views.
You can get
Yeah,
money off of Twitter now?
if you have Twitter Blue, which for as
Hmm.
much as I dislike Elon, I know you dislike Elon too.
I
Twitter
very
Blue
much
for
dislike Elon. He is a horrible human being.
100%, especially now that he's put Alex Jones on. I know all the right wingers in the comments section are going to be besides themselves that were saying this, but
Yeah.
it's just the plain truth. However, for content creators, Twitter Blue is very just it's a very good thing to get your reach out there because the way that Twitter Blue algorithm works is you see a bunch of shit that you normally wouldn't because someone you follow commented or follows it, and it just like chain reactions down. So it's very good for it. But no, you can. Every view on your thing counts. If you get over couple million views every couple months, you get a lot of money from it. So, well, not a lot to you or me, but enough
Yeah.
for people who don't make shit. So, who
Mm-mm.
knows? Who knows? Anyways, I'm sorry. I'm gonna get off here.
All right,
I'll jump on back on
you're
later.
welcome to stay. Eat your calzone, and
My fucking guy, dude. This fucking guy.
in a video you believe in Robb's will that it's Catelyn named his heir. Unpack the idea that John is named heir on the condition he has to marry Catelyn to secure the River Lord, also Gilbert King. Um, that that's an interesting additional rub to it. But so the thing that makes me think it's Catelyn is that when you um is one, like how the chapter is set up. So that chapter, which is for the most part like, so I have also heard a pretty good theory that George never even considered who the heir was, and that the heir will never be revealed, and he never wanted to reveal it. And the only reason he had that chapter is to introduce the idea of legitimization because it's later going to be used by Stannis with John, um, which is a very good theory, actually, because legitimization is not a thing in the first 2 books, and it's introduced in that chapter, and then it's later applied to Jon by Stannis, and that had it come out of nowhere with Stannis, it would have felt like fake. But the fact that he like seeded it earlier in the story like makes it okay. But the thing that makes me think about like Catelyn is how the chapter is structured. So the first part of the chapter is Catelyn arguing with Robb about who should be the heir, and Robb is insisting that he's going to choose Jon. And then the middle part of the story is her talking to Mage Mormont about the strength of women. And then the end of the story is them reconvening, and Jon names his heir, and it's a mystery. And so you're like, okay. Generally speaking, like when it's George R. Martin, he doesn't like project one thing and then do that thing. He likes to surprise us. He like sets us up one way and he goes the other way. So just in the sense that he set up Jon and then left it a mystery makes me think it's not Jon. But then it's like, well, what the fuck is the middle part of the chapter have to do with anything else? Like, think about the structure of the chapter. If it were Robb saying, I need to pick Jon, then the middle being strength of women, and then Robb choosing Jon at the end. Like, how would that thematically make any fucking sense? Like, like any fucking sense at all. Like it kind of would make sense if Robb chose Sansa or Arya at the end too, but it doesn't make sense if he chooses like a male heir. Like, what the fuck are they like? Why are they just wasting time for the rest of the chapter? But it's also that the last line of the chapter is, a king indeed, Catelyn thought, defeated. She could only hope that the trap he'd planned for Moat Cailin worked as well as the one in which he just caught her. The one in which he just caught her. And so the idea is like, well, what's the trap? Like, what's the trap? Like, if he announces I'm going to do Jon, and then he picks Jon, what's the fucking trap? Like, there's no trap. Like, Catelyn's at the end of the chapter going, what a clever boy is what she's saying. What a clever boy. He told me that he was going to pick Jon, and then it doesn't make sense if he picked Jon. Like, it's a very important line there, considering it's the last one. And George R. Martin is a short story writer, and he thinks about the first and last lines of chapters all the time. I'll bring this up again. Now I'm getting back to GH because you're making a very good comment there. But this is this is important. Like, what's the fucking trap? I left my wife at River Run. I want my mother elsewhere. If you keep all your treasures in one place, you make it easier for those who would rob you. After the wedding, you shall go to Seaguard. That's my royal command. Robb stood as quick as that. Her fate was settled. He picked up a sheet of parchment. One more matter. Lord Balon has left chaos in his wake, we hope. I would not do the same. Yet I have no son yet. My brothers, Bran and Rickon, are dead, and my sister is wed to Lannister. I've thought long and hard about who might follow. I command you now as my true loyals. Well, it can't be Sansa, but it might make sense if it were Arya. I command you now as my true and loyal lords to fix your seals to this document and witness my decision. A king indeed. Catelyn thought, defeated. She could only hope that the trap he'd planned at Moat Cailin worked as well as the one in which he just caught her in. What the fuck's the trap? Jon can't be like, what's the trap? What's the trap? And why is she impressed? Like, she was impressed. Like, him going, I'm going to pick Jon. And then picking Jon. Like, how does that impress Catelyn? Like, is she like, wow, I'm really impressed with my really stubborn son. Like, no, there has to be something. What's the essence to it? What's the rub? What's the trick? Like, what is it? Now, could it be something like that Catelyn has to marry Robb? It's still that extra aspect. I'm trying to think like what the again if it would like work with trap and like what's the clever aspect in it, because now it's just like horrific for her, right? He gave her like a horrific option, and now there's a doubly horrific option at the end, right? That she has to marry John. Like she's somewhat proud of him, right? A king indeed, Catelyn thought defeated. Like, right? There's this like weird respect of her son here. And so I do admit that like marrying Cat to John solves a lot of problems. It does. It does. That would be a great decision, right? Um the in a sense that one person is for the north, one person's for the Riverlands. Like they're both they're both like sort of Starks, so together they're like all Stark, that kind of thing. Like I could get that. I could get the logic in that. But I think the but in that is she seems to respect him, a king indeed. And I don't know, and that it was some sort of clever trap. I'm still not getting the clever trap. The reason I think it's Cat is because it's like she would be reluctant. She would feel reluctant. What like the reason Cat fits is that like Cat would feel reluctant being the leader, and Cat would feel reluctant being the heir. However, the alternative is John, and it's like, oh, there's the fucking trap. I have to do it or else it's going to be John. Like that's the trap. That makes sense. And then the middle of the chapter on the strength of women makes sense because it's fucking Catelyn, like it all fits with Cat. And it just doesn't fit with anybody else. But I mean, I'm not saying that like John marrying Cat isn't kind of shrewdly smart, but the fact that like Catelyn kind of respects the decision is the thing that makes me think it wouldn't be that. But anything is possible because we're never going to find out. Finished reading Moby Dick a few days ago. Whoa, haven't stopped thinking about it since. By the way, you should read Umaneko. I ask every week until you do. This is I'm sure this is one of the things I have to ask Carmine about, if because he's he's the anime manga person. He'll come in and talk about this. Did we talk about this? And then he was like, it was fine. It was we'll come back to this. We'll come back to when Carmine comes. Carmine, you're there. I know you're eating, but I want you to tell me about Umaneko. Oh geez, George R. R. Martin giving a gay guy a spreadable disease is a bit sus. It's kind of a good point, man. Kind of a good point. That is a bit weird, and he's like hiding it, Yeah, you're right. It is a bit weird. You know what I do though. See, this is how, and this gets into like the fanfic and such, like because he's had some fake outs, right? Like we feel like there's going to be this breakout, and Serene is the first red herring, and then you have John Con be a second red herring, and then just have a third red herring be like it coming from a completely different source and it's spreading. Like it's on Victarion's ship. When he comes back. And that it's the thing that spreads. And we all thought it was going to be John Con, and it's actually or Shireen, and it's actually like breaks out from a completely different source. Because you're kind of right that it's a bit weird that like this closeted gay guy like starts spreading this disease. Yeah. Thoughts on the level of scientific progress in A Song of Ice and Fire, putting aside lost tech? It seems advanced in some ways and strangely undeveloped in others. So the thing that's off about A Song of Ice and Fire is that a lot of the technology is way advanced for say late Middle Ages. Like people having mirrorish lenses, people having telescopes. That's really quite late. I want to say like the first telescopes were coming out in 1600. So you're like talking about like widespread use of a telescope. You know, you know, um, you're well into the Renaissance at this point, right? Um, and the one that's most advanced is their medical technology. The fact that they would be like knowing about boiling wine and sterilizing wounds and stuff like that, that's like solid like 19th century ideas about about uh, about um, you know science and disease and corruption and stuff like that. Corrupt, infection. So they're very good when it comes to like that. Um, and then I want to say one of the things that's like obviously like because I think there was a sextant mentioned in Ice and Fire. Was there? Maybe I'm imagining that. It's certainly not by name, but the telescope is a bit weird. And then um the medical technology, and then there was something else that was odd. That I'm oh, I mean, there's some stuff that just like we've never been able to do. Like what they're able to do with ravens is freaking crazy. Um that level of like coordination and training and everything for ravens is outrageous. Like it's amazing that they're able to do something like that. We couldn't do that today. But some of their construction, like obviously the wall in Storm's End and stuff is out of control. But or the Valyrian roads is out of control. Like how do you have these roads that are not falling apart and don't have aren't overgrown and stuff like that? I don't know how they were able to do any of that. Um, but it does all seem to be all over the map. And like why did they, maybe it's just that they put their time into things that we didn't put our time into and stuff like that. But um certainly, the big thing, their agriculture. We could never, whatever they're doing with their agriculture is well beyond like what we're capable of doing. I mean, to survive like multi-year winters, like, man, I don't know what genetic engineering they were doing to their crops, but man, they're well beyond us, you know. Sorry, Preston. I want to be as far from gorillas and lions and rhinos as possible. We'll stick to California beach. Thank you very much. Yeah, the gorillas are pretty. The gorillas are probably the safest. Rhinos and lions are pretty safe. I mean, lions just kind of sit around. You're in a car when you go see lions and rhinos. You're in a car. Gorillas, you go out and like and see, but the gorillas for the most part, like they just they don't want to be near you, and if you get near them, they warn you. The girls are like whoa, 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 and then you're like, okay, back off, back off. Girls don't want to get in any fight. Girls are okay. Um, Preston, you ever been to Serbia? I have. I have. I've been to Belgrade. Yeah, it was a nice, had a very nice time there. Um, Say hi to Preston One fan in Burundi while you're there. I would have thought my Burundi fan is still around. Oh yeah, Aegon the Second personally burned the shepherd. That would have been tough to kill himself. Yeah. Um, you spoke about 40K before, but any thoughts on Warhammer Fantasy, similar to Song of Ice and Fire, like Moorcock inspiration and former advanced civilizations, etc.? Um, I do. They do. I have thought a bit about Warhammer, only in the sense that it's so it's so bleak and dark that you can't help but start thinking of ways in which the society can turn itself around. You're like, how can it get out of this? Like how can um and I know that like a lot of I've talked to other Warhammer people, and apparently this is like something that everybody kind of like thinks about, because like no one really wants to like live in a world without hope. And so even these people that are like, oh yeah, I just want to fight and destroy and watch it burn, but it's like, no, actually everybody's like, well, there's got to be a way that the galaxy can survive. For those that don't know what I'm talking about, Warhammer is takes place in a universe where the galaxy was first colonized by humanity, and humanity colonized like billions of worlds. They have like big control over the whole galaxy. But then, this they became a fundamentalist fascist dictatorship that like worships an emperor, and so they're pretty much like Nazis. So they're not really great human beings. So and then this like chaos rift happened in the galaxy where like half the humans started worshiping chaos, and this rift started destroying the galaxy. And then it started getting invaded by these race of aliens called the Tyranids, who are just like unstoppable monsters that are just like go on and on and on, and you just can't stop them. And then there's like a whole race of orcs that think it's just fun to kill, and another race that thinks it's like who enjoys torturing people, and like all like it just dreadful groups that just want to kill each other, and they all lack any sort of like there's no good guys because they're all horrible. And they're just all trying to kill each other. And so and it just seems like, oh man, how can anything heal the universe at this point? But I've actually heard some good theories on like why the Warhammer 40K like universe is actually completely not hopeless, and how there are like a million ways that they can actually like survive and like do well. And they talk about like the turn from to to fascism was actually like the decision of a few individuals, and that generally it would take only just a few individuals in the bureaucracy to change things back, and that like the Tyranids for the most part, like if they really became a problem, all the races of the universe would probably team up and fight them off. And human biotechnology is actually like advancing so fast that they can defeat the Tyranids, and all sorts of stuff like this. And there's people saying like, oh, there's actually complete hope. You're talking about billions of trillions of human beings and billions of worlds. Like some idea is going to come out of here. After the dance, Rhaena Targaryen marries a Hightower. My question is why? Wasn't there a war between these two families? Was it because of a secret treaty? I think she was just forced. I mean, she doesn't have much choice at this point. You gotta also, I mean, think about what happens to Sansa at the end of um, that she's married off to Tyrion and stuff like that. I don't think there was much choice. Also remember that when the war finishes, she's 15 years old. And so we like to think that maybe these people have like agency, and we've seen the show, and we're getting this idea that Bela and Rhaena were these like have their own personalities and stuff like this. But also let's walk it back and be like, she's a 15-year-old girl at the end of a war where maybe not her enemies, but like other powerful people have control over her and are going to force her to do whatever they want, and she doesn't really have much say. So I don't know if like I'm trying to remember who brokered the marriage. The regents planned to marry Corwin Corbray, and then what did she later in life she marries Germund Hightower. So I suppose specifically with this Hightower thing is that it could have happened much later. So she at least her husband's killed in 135. And so now she's 19 years old. 20. And then later, I don't know. So it's hard to say. I mean, this is also a world where like people are looking for places to live and wealth and whatever. And it's like at some point, I don't know who's brokering this marriage, or if she's able to even broker herself at what point. Because like what lord would have control over her at that point? Probably would it just be chosen for her by the king, probably. And so the king in the year 136 or after is it still Aegon the Third, or is he dead at that point? Forget what Aegon the Third. Yeah, he lives all the way into 157. So imagine Aegon the Third ordered it at some point. Would be my guess if he has control over her, unless it would pass to Corlys. But probably his hand would whisper in his ear. So it's just kind of chosen by these regents and stuff. I think she just doesn't have enough control or power. I mean, keep in mind that like Cersei was a full-grown woman, and her father, after the death of Robert, was trying to marry her off, and she didn't have any power control. So I do think they're still trying to broker peace here. And it's hard to say. Aegon the Third is supposedly a pretty weak king who's just kind of ruled by his regents and his hand. So because we don't know the year, because like Tywin Lannister is hand until 133, Unwood Peak, and then Thaddeus Rowan. Oh, it's going to be Thaddeus Rowan. When does he die? Thaddeus Rowan dies in 135, so it's not that Thaddeus Rowan either. Man, George didn't even like write this. This is all like mystery stuff. Thaddeus Rowan, it became clear. So then it became 3 new regents. Lord Manderley was in the new hand. Um, small council. What is Torrin Manderley? Is he hand of the king until Torrin's first task hand of the king? I guess it was Torrin Manderley's like. No, he was only the hand of the king for like a fortnight. We don't even know who hand of the king is at this point. God damn it. Right? Tor Manderlane, and then it says, "Oh, it's Viser." Oh, we don't know. We don't know who. We don't know who Hand of the King is at the point in which before Viserys Targaryen comes back. So I'm sorry, we just don't have any information. But it's probably going to be whoever his hand is going to like claim that it's a good idea. Greyscale is a stand-in for leprosy. No, I mean it's sort of a stand-in for leprosy. It's also sort of a stand-in for the Black Plague. I mean, it's just a sort of a stand-in for a bunch of different diseases. Um, but like there's no version of leprosy that breaks out quickly, right? you know, is there any? I'm gonna make sure that that's true. Fast spreading leprosy. I mean, it was highly contagious, it said, but then they said it's not highly. Was feared as highly contagious, but not. There's no fast spreading leprosy or whatever. Yeah. So I mean, it's definitely got some mixtures of things in there, obviously. Um, Sorry to badger you, but both you and Quinn Howard keep saying that you'd love to do a stream. One needs to reach out. LOL. Yeah. I mean, I guess I'll be in Wisconsin for the holidays, but yeah, the new year or whatever. I mean, people are demanding some sort of stream. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, it's uh, I don't know how Quinn like does he answer his Twitter DMs to or whatever, but look, I'll try to send a message out. I'll try to put feelers out. Um, man, um, could Penny's contrived debut from her being a late replacement for the Shrouded Lord? The O3 outline makes it seem like she was meant to tuck Tyrion away from his dark path, but without someone else had to fill that role. Um, let me think about Penny for a second. Let me go back to that the George R. Martin's O3 outline, because it's like, is Penny mentioned at all? Okay, we get to the Tyrion story. So we got Tyrion witness to incest. Right. This is our Tyrion story. Tyrion. Okay. What you got for what's gonna happen to Tyrion in A Dance with Dragons? Well, he's going to be a witness to incest, and then we're going to have a cliffhanger with Dany captured by Ser Jorah. Sorrows, Volantis, not the sea or Dany. Like, that's it. So little there, right? So little. The what we do know is that those, I want to say the Sorrows is a fairly early concept. I'm trying to remember about the Shrouded Lord chapter that got cut. Because that is see, when I read A Dance with Dragons, it very much feels like it's building towards like Tyrion's family, and you get introduced to Garyon in the story, and then you kind of, and the mystery of where Garyon is, and you have Tyrion like lamenting his father and the murder, and it kind of builds towards the Shrouded Lord. And the Shrouded Lord, you get these feelings that like the Shrouded Lord is his dad, like that he has later dreams about the Shrouded Lord and his father's arms and things like this. And so like you kind of get this idea that the Shrouded Lord is this stand-in for Tywin in Tyrion's head. I want to say especially when he's on the boat later, there's something about like arms reaching out or something that happened. Yeah. He dreamt of his Lord Father. This is Tyrion 6. He dreamt of his Lord Father and the Shrouded Lord. He dreamt they were one and the same. And when his father wrapped stone arms around him and bent to give him a gray kiss, he woke with his mouth dry and rusty and the taste of blood and his heart hammering in his chest. So I mean, everything that I kind of like get the feeling of with Tyrion's story is that it's mostly about his family, and it's a lot of, I mean, lack of a better word, it's navel gazing. It's about himself and his family and everything, and the Shrouded Lord is that. But I don't know if Penny is the one that's talking Tyrion away from a dark path. I don't know if anyone's talked Tyrion away from his dark path. Like Tyrion still seems pretty dark throughout it, and like, are we supposed to think that Penny is some sort of like, does he see Penny as some sort of like glimmer of hope that's gonna like pull him away from like his attitudes? I mean, we haven't seen that yet. It's, and I don't know if the Shrouded Lord is pushing him away from that either. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if like, I don't know. It seems a little early as well for Tyrion to be talked away from a dark path. Like if one is like accepting that Tyrion is on a dark path after killing his father, a shrouded lord, would be like the fifth chapter, sixth chapter. Um, we're not even halfway through the Tyrion story, being talked away from his dark path already. You'd want him on a dark path for the entire book, which he kind of is. I mean, Tyrion's dark path, he poisons a dude because he doesn't like him in the camps, things like that. He's convincing sellswords to like switch sides so he can like get dragons and get himself in with Daenerys and take control of her dragons. So I don't know if the Shrouded Lord is just way too early to possibly talk Tyrion away from a dark path. And the Shrouded Lord is kind of a stand-in for his dad. So I don't know if his dad is certainly not the type of person to um, uh, talk anyone away, from a dark path. I mean, we'll see if Penny is that person. I mean, I kind of think that Penny. I don't know if George like has thought about actually what Penny is, but I like the idea of her being a Littlefinger agent. Um, but you know, um, all these weird things. Oh, this is way back on politics. Um, Long live Israel. I mean, it depends on what form. Long live Israel. Long live Palestine. I just want everyone to live their lives. This is the kind of like the moral strength of a one state solution where both Palestinians and is all Palestinians would get Israeli citizenship or whatever, and that you'd have equality. I think there's more strength to that. Um, um, oh, why? So I mean, I think that's when people say like long live something. I mean, one, like, who cares about nation states? Like, nationalism is kind of stupid. Like, when, like, I don't, long live America. Who cares? Like, who cares? Like, we're talking about like whether humanity like is living well. Like, it doesn't really matter. Who cares? Um, so I don't really care about like nation states. Like, what I care about is people having human rights and and good lives, freedom of religion, freedom of expression, freedom to do what they want, which you can't do in the Middle East. You know, yeah, you can't marry who you want. You can't practice the religion you want. Um, you you can't escape from religion. You know, uh, you're required to abide by other people's religious values in the Middle East. Um, you're kind of stuck. Why are so many politicians in the USA pro-Israel? Is there a reason besides money? Why? Um, so here's the thing. I mean, people talk a lot about APAC, and obviously APAC exists, but is it really like money? It's not really money. No one's getting bribed. Um, like that. The reason that people are pro-Israel, the politicians are pro-Israel, is because American Jews live in three places in America. Okay, for the most part, their largest population centers are New York, Maryland, and Florida. And Florida is a swing state, and that is the beginning and the end of it all. Now, well, it's not the beginning and the end of it all. It's the beginning and the end of it all when it comes to Jewish Americans, because even Jewish Americans aren't even that pro-Israel. Like, the Jewish Americans are very diverse. Okay, very diverse, and there might be a tipping to one point. So like a politician's doing a calculus about Florida being a swing state and like 60% of American Jews supporting Israel or something, and thinking about whether that translates to 1%, you know, possible thing in an election. But it's actually beyond that too, because there's also the evangelical vote. Evangelicals in America believe that the end of the world apocalypse will come and Jesus will return if there's Armageddon. And they believe that Armageddon will involve like a war with Israel, and like Israel needs to be there existing for revelation to happen. So people like to think that it's like this Jewish conspiracy, but it has a lot to do with like American Christians, American evangelicals, and their beliefs. So you get a bit of that. So you get these evangelical politicians who are pro-Israel because they think it's going to bring about the apocalypse. And then you've got like the swing state aspect of Florida. Those are basically the two things that really like mean something. Because the thing is Maryland and the other two centers of big population centers of Jews in America, Maryland and New York, like they're very liberal. It doesn't matter. You can alienate every single Jew in New York and every single Jew in Maryland, and it doesn't matter. The Democrats would, the Republicans would still lose those states, and the Democrats would still take them. But Florida is the one that's like, but then it's the evangelical votes. But yeah. Okay. So behind. Saw a Team Green account on X being canceled for saying Gaza situation is not a genocide and calling for a two-state solution. You think they're wrong? So it's not a genocide yet. Like here's the problem as well, is we start talking about like Israel. Israel is just like the American government. Like there's many politicians within the American government that have a variety of views. There's many politicians in the Israeli government that have a variety of views. And there are definitely politicians in the Israeli government that, including Netanyahu himself and people to the right of Netanyahu, who say, well, I would say that people to the right of Netanyahu straight up say genocide. And when I say genocide, I don't mean like murdering every person, but they're talking about pushing them into Sinai, and that being and so in that sense it's ethnic cleansing. Like you're not killing them, it's ethnic. They're probably going to be ethnic cleansed, is what they're promoting. And when Netanyahu, like very clearly over and over again, has referred to like the West Bank as Judea and Samaria and Samarita, and like and he speaks in these ways of like that, like he's not completely direct, but he's trying to please far righters by saying using words that promote the ethnic cleansing of pushing Palestinians into Jordan, pushing Palestinians into Sinai. So like I would say that like there are strong elements of in the far right of Israel that are pro ethnic cleansing. I don't know that if there's too many that are there for genocide. Like genocide is the killing, right? So it's not quite genocide. I mean, like it's bad. Like ethnic cleansing is bad, and obviously the murder of like the bombings of like killing of whatever 20,000 people, and largely women and children, like in Gaza, is horrible. But killing 20,000 people among 2 million is not really genocide. I mean, but we're like, like arguing about these like little nits here and there, like stupidly. And this is the thing, is like people get hung up on these little things, like whether it's genocide or not. Like, geez, I mean, that killing thousands of people is bad enough. Killing tens of thousands of people is bad enough, but like, do we need the genocide label? I mean, I guess it's not genocide, but there's definitely like far right elements in the Israeli government that are like for ethnic cleansing, and if there weren't people pushing back, yeah, they would totally, they'd totally have that. But so I mean, it's these I don't know. Now, to be canceled for it, I don't know if they should be canceled. I'd have to read the 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 post. Now, for the two-state solution, um, I mean, the two-state solution is the most practical one. It's the most practical one, but it's not the most morally correct one. Is the one-state solution of equal rights? Okay, that's the most morally correct one. The two-state solution, um, it unfortunately just kind of recognizes that there should be like religious states, and all the people that were pushed off their land and expelled, and the problem of refugees and things like that is like solidified forever. Like at this point, there's no right of return and things like this. Now, of course, one could say, like, what are the chances that they're ever going to accept these refugees back? There's, none. But it's still like saying, like, there's no chance. You're closing the door with the two-state solution. And so, like, I am for a two-state solution just because it's the most practical, but the most morally correct solution is a one-state solution with equal rights and secular governance. But I don't know about, whatever canceling of this group or not, but will any great house go extinct by the end of A Song of Ice and Fire? House Targaryen is the only one that I really think would go extinct. It's the only one that's really like, I'm trying to think like which ones are even like there's even a chance. So we kind of have like Stark, right? So you'd need like Arya and Sansa, and Bran to all die. And I just don't know if I see Sansa dying at the end. Um, and then even if you did that, like they just pull a Karstark out of somewhere, and they would be the Stark. Tully, I mean, he's still got Sweet Robin. I mean, he could die, I suppose, and then I guess Sansa. I mean, I guess Tully is fairly close. Edmure and his kid, though. He's got that kid with the Frey, with Mosmond Frey. Um, I suppose Tully is pretty close, but I don't know if I see that baby dying. Um, Lannister, there's just so many Lannisters, you can't do it. Tyrells, there's so many Tyrells that you can't do it. Hightowers, there's too many Tyrells. Martell, I think he has some cousins and stuff, so I don't even see Martell. And Baratheon, there's Baratheon's pretty close, I suppose. Baratheon is pretty close, though. I mean, you've got like Robert's bastards that I could suppose could fill in, but that's about it. But I mean, I guess, but it just seems like Targaryen would be the one. But um, uh, 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 how'd everyone like the Barristan chapter? Yeah, I'll do um and then who's next after Barristan? I mean, after Barristan is Quentin, and then we're doing Tyrion 3. I gotta figure out the plot for Tyrion 3 because it's been clunking around in my head. But people people liked it. I was very insecure about it. Like there's certain chapters where it finishes and I'm just like, wow, this is gold, and I know it's gold. You know, like Bran, Elaine prologue. Like I'm just like I finished those. I'm just like, wow, these are good. Like these are good chapters. These are like, and then I felt really insecure after Victarion and Tyrion and Barristan 2, and I think it had to do with the fact that I'm sticking to an outline, somebody else's outline, so I can't like have it closed together with and the events happen in a way that I like really like, to explore people's emotions the way I really like. Like I did everything I could with Barristan to I mean we it was like there's so much work done by editors and the original writer, um James Worth, and the but like you're torn in that one because you've got to go on to the next subject. You got to get to that because that's what George planned. And so I was very, very insecure about Barristan. And a lot of time went into it, and I was just like near the end, I'm just like, I don't even know how I feel about this. So I'm glad that all the reactions were quite positive about it. And what's funny is that like any negative stuff that I saw was mainly about stuff that like I couldn't change because it was George's, like that was George's plan. Um, like even stuff where they're talking about like pacing, and they're like, well, so much goes into like,
Preston,
hey, what's going on?
I need to give you some shit. Someone said, some of you more frequent chatters should give Preston some smack talk for forgetting Rick and Stark when talking about how Stark going extinct, naming only Bran, Sansa, and Arya. Come on, man.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I'm so
All
sorry.
right, I'm still on BRB.
Sorry. How you been, man? It's been
I'm
a
okay. I'm
minute.
still on BRB. I'm over here, chatting it up with the Australians in Australia land and making some sand. Just give me a few. I'll be back on.
Australia. Why are you chatting with the Australians?
Got to give the diggery-doos their due. BRB.
So you know how you talk to like an Australian is you take all your words and you like cut them in half and you like add a Y. So it's like Barbie and uni, Sunnies, that kind of stuff. Like um. So like I imagine like if are you talking to them on Discord, you'd be like
Yes.
it's disky, right? You call it like disky. Like that's what it would be, right? You know?
I guess. By the way, to a super chatter earlier said something about Quinn's ideas moving from Ice and Fire to Dune and
Mm,
cosmic sci-fi stuff, which is what
yeah.
Quinn did. You have no idea. This is I need to reiterate this. I don't know Quinn's ideas. I've spoke
Mm,
to him maybe one time. I don't know him. But props to him for being able to shift your entire channel's focus from Ice and
mm,
Fire to another topic completely.
yeah.
Because normally, nine
And do
times out of
better.
10,
And do better after the shift.
oh yeah. Oh god,
Yeah.
yeah. 9 times out of 10 when a channel does that, that is the death of that
Mm,
channel. So props to him for being able to do that in a very effective and successful way. Tony Teflon also gets those compliments too because he did something different. So shout out to Mr. Quinn and Mr. Tony for doing that
yeah, yeah.
successfully. And by the way, real quick, I'm sorry, I said a BRB, but real quick, um, you do other stuff too.
I do. But obviously, it's me. We do Marvel, we do Star Wars. I talk about politics. I talk about my travels and stuff like that.
Hmm.
You all the time are like, dude, you should have your own travel channel and shit. And
Yeah,
one
fuck
of the
it.
things I did think about like shifting was just like telling stories, like telling old stories, because I do think that um there is a large number of people who are in their teens and 20s who are looking for advice in this world. Honest, real, true advice. And I think I have some okay advice. And I think like it's going to be much better and more useful than the fucking Andrew Tates out there for people, on how to live. But
Hmm.
I don't know how
So
more,
I was just talking about you in the sense where I was just actually just telling someone just now, funny enough, how the reason I like you as a person so much is because you kind of remind me a lot of Qui-Gon Jinn, in the sense where you're like the how do I explain this? In my personal opinion, I feel like every young man needs like that wise mentor, Qui-Gon Jinn like figure to like show them that like if you fly straight, you don't do stupid shit, your life can be this good. Your life can be like,
mm.
and you have a pretty great life. You have a good job, family, beautiful wife, kids. Financially healthy. Like I'm sure you're also a healthy dude as well. You're a good example for what young men should strive to be. Like not some dumbass shithead Steven Crowder wannabe. So
Plus, every once in a while, I sit you down and I talk to you about midichlorians.
of course. Oh, by the way, real quick, I am so because Ness is. I was actually going to talk to Mr. Ness. Um, he did this prank a while ago. I'll tell this story to the audience because Preston got very like annoyed with me briefly for like a
Mm.
second. So Ness sends me this prank where he he photoshopped this video. He photoshopped this picture, and he sent it to me. And it's like, dude, you uploaded this video. What is this? And there was the problem with women. Women, should they vote? Women theory you might have missed. He photoshopped this thing as a video I might have uploaded. I thought I was like, wait, did I upload that video? It was a joke. It was a prank. So I sent it to Preston, and Preston, that goes over your head that it's a prank. So you were like, wait a minute, did you upload this? You got so fucking heated. You know what I'm talking about? That
Yeah,
picture
yeah,
I
I
sent
do. I
you?
do. I was like,
Preston got so fucking annoyed and heated so goddamn quick. You felt it. It felt like you were a dad about to like go upstairs and beat the. Oh, how dare you make me look bad? It
oh
was fucking
my.
hilarious.
Oh my. Um.
Okay, BRB.
How'd you like Barristan,
Oh, I
Carmine?
really liked it. I really liked it. You sent it to me eons ago, so yeah.
I did. I
Were,
did.
were there any major changes?
Um.
Does it end with the
No, I wouldn't say
Ironborn?
major. There was some small. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of language changes. The opening got shifted around a little bit. And there was some stuff about, I don't know, removing stuff about the Dothraki in certain places, but for the most part, it was. I mean, the story wise, it was all the same from when you read it. You know. It's just the language shifts around. But um, Crown 12 says if we vote blue no matter what, the DNC will ever play dirty, blocking out Williamson. What? Oh, okay. Um, if we vote blue no matter what, DNC will forever play dirty, blocking out Williamson. If we withhold our vote, perhaps we will get candidates that aren't unfairly treated, that reflect us and our values. I would say that you are 100% wrong. You are. This is this is a very very bad take. It's so bad that I wonder if you're actually a right winger pretending to be left winger, because this is just, it's that bad of a take. So first of all, the parties are the parties. Okay, these are parties, and they can run whatever candidates they want. Okay, um, they don't have to accept anybody in their party. Okay, and the fact that like the DNC allows people like Bernie Sanders, who is an independent, to like run in there is more open than they need to be. Okay. So if they don't think the best strategy for them is to let every Tom, Dick, and Harry like run against their like the candidate that the party has chosen, like then that's their choice. Now, this idea of like withholding votes that will get you what you want, I don't know where that comes from. Like you can see it your entire life that every time, like this is like the story of America, that like anytime you withhold your vote, you though it gets worse. It gets worse for you. Anytime your party is split, it gets worse. There is never a point in history where someone withheld their vote and someone goes, well, they didn't vote, let's court them more. That's never fucking happened. Never. In fact, the reverse happens. That a group comes out and they vote and everyone goes, oh my gosh, they're a voting bloc now. Let's court them. There is nothing ever that is achieved from not voting. No one will ever try to court you if you do not vote. For instance, the youth votes at a much lower rate than the elderly. Okay? Do you see government targeting youth and doing things for the youth? Or do you see them doing things and having programs for the elderly? Like it's as simple as that. Like there's lots of voting blocks that don't vote, and you can see like and that aren't significant. And you can see that government doesn't do anything for them. Government only does things for people that vote. They look at these demographics and they say, this group votes. Let's try to court them. Let's do policies for them. You don't vote, you don't get counted. No one cares about you. There has never been a case. There's never been a case where someone or people go, oh, they sat this one out. Let's court them next time. No, doesn't happen. Doesn't happen. You know, it's just like it's like do people not remember like Nader? Like people not remember how bad things got because of Ralph Nader? It's such a ridiculous take that I mistrust your intention here. That I mistrust it, and I think you're a right winger. That there's no dirty tricks. The DNC has a very open like primary and caucuses compared to the Republicans. Destiny is divorcing his wife Melina over a twink femboy, exactly the opposite type of guy of alt-right Andrew Tate-esque community we're predicting and praying for, yet they are celebrating. Well, they're gonna find whatever they want, with these sorts of things. It's like Captain Marvel does really well. Oh, it has nothing to do with the fact that it's a movie with women in it. But the Marvels does poorly. Oh, it's completely because it's a movie that has women in it. It's one of these things. People are gonna read into whatever. But Destiny. I mean, he was in an open relationship with her in the first place. It's kind of weird. Who knows what's going on there? It's hard to say. Who knows? But we don't know what the guy's like. I mean, I've seen Carmine brought this story to me and was like, "What's the deal, dude? Why would you go for that guy?" And I gave my opinion, but but who knows? Read for a single yesterday. Next George R. R. Martin shit story. I don't think For a Single Yesterday is George R. R. Martin's strongest. No. If you want shit story, George R. R. Martin has a lot of shit stories. He does. He has stories that are just like, so he has something called the Corpse Handler trilogy, where there's three stories about people that animate dead bodies. One of them is Gold, Meathouse Man. The other two are just so forgettable. One's called Override, and one is called Nobody Leaves New Pittsburgh. And it's just like you can read them, but there's just nothing to them. Like okay. I mean, he's got a lot of lukewarm stories. Um, Essentially, most of the stories that didn't make Dream Song. That I mean, there's a few that are really good that aren't in Dream Songs, but like I think Men of Greywater Station is very good. I don't know, um, but yeah, there's a lot that are just like whatever. The Runners, War, War, Warship, uh, just whatever stories. Um, he has one called, oh God, he has this one. I think it's called Faster Than Light, FTL, and it's a short story, but it's essentially like this researcher is finds out that uh, he's been doing research his entire life on faster than light. He's trying to find faster than light travel, and so he discovers subspace. He like discovers subspace, and he's just like, why isn't anyone like why hasn't this been pursued? If we can travel through subspace, perhaps like we can go faster than light. And then he eventually like the other researchers like sit him down and they're like, no, we actually like I understand you spent all your time on this, but it's already been researched. And subspace, yeah, no, it goes at a different speed. It goes slower, not faster. And that's like the end of the story. Okay, um any plan for April solar eclipse? Have you seen one before? I haven't really ever seen a solar eclipse. I remember there was a big one during high school, but it was one of those situations where like you can like look at it in the box, or maybe I watched it in the box or something. You're not supposed to stare at it because you're gonna hurt your eyes, and then or you can like look at it in the box, and then it's like, well, that doesn't. Neither one is really great, right? But I don't have any plans. I didn't know about this April solar eclipse, but I haven't ever really seen one. I mean, I remember this one in high school, but um, total eclipse. Oh man, I guess it's gonna be passing over the Northeast. It doesn't quite get Maryland, but I imagine there's gonna be some sort of partial eclipse. I don't want to go blind. I don't want to go blind. Huh, it got really cold and the birds stopped flying. I'm trying to remember. I think maybe. Huh. No, I guess it was a partial eclipse. I've never experienced a total eclipse. Um deep, deep, deep. Any tips on how to evade taxes? Um let's see. So the thing is if you are a salaried individual, um, say you work for the government or something, say you work for a corporation or whatever, those taxes are taken out before you get them automatically. So you can't really like get that back too much, right? So like it's very very difficult to cheat on your taxes if you're say a government employee or you work for a corporation and receive a salary. The people that evade taxes are the ones that have their own businesses, um, or who and the big way to evade taxes on that is to like declare everything a business expense, right? But and include everything as part of that or whatever, or under report like how much revenue is coming in. Obviously, like you can try to do like you can try to pay lower taxes with mutual funds or capital gains and things like that, but it's obviously like fewer taxes, but it's pretty difficult. It's pretty difficult for the average Joe to evade taxes. It's unless you have your own company or something, you know. And even when even if you do, like it's not that much in the grand scheme of things, on how much you can evade. Um, you know, so there aren't really any great tips. If you're into like if you have your own business and you're doing real estate and you're Donald Trump, yeah, you can figure out things with depreciation and stuff like that. Um, but even when you start talking about like what you can things you can write off, like there's not too many things you could do. Now that the standard deduction's so high and stuff like that. So, um, but yeah, I mean, for the most part, make your own business and make sure everything is a business expense somehow. You know, but it's if you're a salaried person, there's nothing you can really do. There's nothing you can do. And I wouldn't really recommend it. It's the risk reward is not necessarily great on these things. I mean, at some point you got enough, if you're in the situation, see, this is the thing is if say you're rich enough to have your own business or have your own real estates or you know have weird offshore accounts or whatever, like if you're that wealthy, like why would you risk your life like that and take the risk, and if say you need the money, say you're poor and you need the money, like there's not many opportunities to evade taxes. Not that you're taxed very much if you're poor, but like there's not many opportunities to evade the taxes if you're salaried. So it's one of these weird things like tax evasion. Like if you're rich enough to evade taxes, why take the risk? Like just pay it. Like why bother? And then if you're poor enough and you need the money, there's no way to evade it. So um oh, super off topic. What are your thoughts on Syrian civil war? What do you think the future of the country looks like? Keep up the good work. Yeah, this is one of those situations where I really where Syria specifically, like Trump really screwed up on Syria, and um, it was pretty sad. Let me bring up. Let's see what we got here. No, huh? So let me pull up the latest on the on the Civil War here. Um, all right, here's Syria. Can I make this smaller? It's way too big. Okay, so in this map, like the it doesn't really explain the history too much, but for the most part, the red is the Assad regime. This like yellow up here is like area that isn't really no one really has much control over it. These like green, that's part of like the Army of Free Syria, and then these little pockets are like ISIS. All right, so like Um, ISIS doesn't like anybody. Everybody wants to get rid of ISIS. Um, and then the this area up here in the northeast is this really cool, um, super left wing, like women fight in their military kind of group. Um, and it seems like I guess they've now uh, there's something over here. I guess this is maybe the remnants of of what used to be, um, the other opposition. So it used to be that like the Northwest was the strongest opposition to the Assad regime, and the U.S. was funding the the groups in the Northwest. Um, they were the strongest, though they were probably they were still a bit religious based, and the U.S. was funding them. And after Trump came into office, Russia bombed this whole area and killed them all off, and they were gone, like gone. Like we were like all the groups the U.S. was funding there died. And so they kind of U.S. kind of shifted over to starting to fund this like far left communist group, um, but they're you know they don't really have as much strength, um, and opportunity as the ones in the Northwest. So I mean, for the most part, over time, like because of the Russian bombing, the Assad regime has been retaking control of the country, and eventually, I mean, it seems inevitable that Assad will retake the country, eventually over time. Um, which I mean, I guess is back to square one. Back, like I mean, the Assad regime. You look, they're horrible, brutal, um, group, but there's worse groups, for example ISIS. So it's I think that, yeah, I really think the Trump administration screwed up with Syria, and yeah, I'm more politically minded with these people in the Northeast, but I don't think there's much chance for them to um to succeed, unfortunately. um bam, 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 bam. Is Florida still a swing state? This is getting back to the discussion here, and maybe it's not. Maybe it's not. But people still act like it is. But I think that might be a significant thing later on. Um, um, Thoughts on the religion in Dorne? Is it weird that there is no Rhoynar religion that was brought over? There's talk of this, like the Great Turtle. I want to say what was written about it. Old Man in the River, right? Like the orphans, do they still in Dorne? Garen explains this to the orphans, and they said that the Rhoynar, he had heard the Rhoynar worshipped a turtle god, and the Garen explains that the Old Man in the River is a lesser god, child of the mother Rhoyne. So I mean, I think it's just the orphans that still talk about the Old Man in the River, um, and the mother Rhoyne, and these gods. It is a little weird that is like completely wiped out, but it's also pretty weird that the the old gods were wiped out from everywhere south of the neck, except for the Blackwoods. It's pretty odd as well, because there was no. I mean, Dorne wasn't part of the Seven Kingdoms, and yet somehow like the religion like came in. I mean, I guess that happened with Christianity. Like the areas outside of Rome, started converting to Christianity without the Romans like doing it to them. Like the Germans and the Scandinavians like started converting to Christianity, on their own. So I mean, I guess maybe it's possible with the Faith of the Seven. Um, so I mean, it's a little weird that there's not like too many elements left. But except with the orphans and the green blood, you think there'd be a few more, or just like they would have a different take on the Faith of the Seven that we'd hear about. You know, like when you think about like the Irish cross, right? The Celtic cross, for example. Here's a so the Celtic cross is this like example of prior to adopting Christianity, like the pagans would worship like the sun, or maybe it's the moon, I don't know. Whatever the case is, you have this circular structure, and so then you add it to the cross, and then they can make up these creation myths that back before Christianity came, we were actually still worshiping Christianity when we worshipped that moon. They could retroactively like call themselves that. I'm surprised that when like Garen talks about the old man in the river, he's not like, well, the old man in the river is actually like still like Mother Royne is still the mother, or some bullshit like that, right? Like, that the mother Royne and the mother are one and the same. Don't you know that? Or like the old man in the river is just an aspect of the seven. You'd think there'd be some like coping bullshit like that that they'd talk about, but we don't have it. Mm-hmm. It's so funny, like, our discussions going in circles. I was like, ethnic cleansing is more like, we don't want you here, right? Yeah, ethnic cleansing is when you either um it is ethnic cleansing is more like broad thing. It's either you can genocide is ethnic cleansing, but like ethnic cleansing can also be forced migration. The idea is that you just are getting rid of somebody. So there's a couple different ways to get rid of them. You can do forced conversion. You can do expulsion. You can do execution. But there's definitely uh, different ways. Should we reunify India and Pakistan too? Yeah, I wouldn't mind. You know. Um, yeah. As long as people, again, it's all about, it might, the idea that India might be too politically large, but I don't think the India Pakistan split was over very good reasons. Myself, you know, um, nor the ethnic cleansing that happened on both sides of that situation, um, which is exactly what happened there. So no, I mean India. We should not celebrate the separation of India and Pakistan in any respect. Um, you know, split for bad reasons. You had forced migration of millions of people. It was just ridiculous. For bullshit. For bullshit. Um, I still love the fact that Red Team Review introduced me to Preston Jacobs years ago. Oh, that's good. Um, and I've got up to the Qui-Gon Jinn discussion. This is coming back around. Um, huh. Nader never got enough votes to change anything. I don't know what you're talking about here. I mean, Nader put Bush in the White House. I mean, this is well known fact. I mean, like this. That's really a weird like take. I mean, this is just like demonstrably wrong. Like Nader received almost 100,000 votes in Florida. 100,000 votes in Florida. And Florida was decided by 450 votes. In fact, after the recount, that was not allowed, but it was still done. I think that in the end, it was like 3 votes. That Gore actually won the state by 3 votes after the recount, but it was 450 votes before, or I'm sorry, 537, and Nader received 100,000 votes. So like Nader never got enough votes to change anything. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Like, what are you talking about? Of course he did. Of course he did. I mean, even if you like, even if you go down to like, you know, I mean, even if you subtract the Pat Buchanan, Harry Brown votes, like you'd still like have, you know, over like 60,000 votes. Um, let's see here. The lamp is giving Essos. This lamp over here is actually from Egypt. Yeah, I got in Egypt years ago. It's the problem is that Egypt uses different voltage, so I had to remove like the light in there and different plug and stuff, and it doesn't. It normally like sits on the ground, and the kids kept breaking it and stuff like that. So, but yeah, it's one of the things I got in Egypt that I quite liked. That I don't get to use very much because if it's out, a baby will just trash it. Um, have you read Hunter's Run? Could it be in the Thousand Worlds universe? And tell Carmine to do more live streams with with NES. Oh, so I was like with the Nintendo Entertainment System. Um, so Hunter's Run is a book that George R. R. Martin wrote collaboratively um, with a guy named Daniel Gardner Dozios and Daniel Abraham. Um, as for being in the yeah, it was expanded on Shadow Twin, but I want to say that I'm trying to remember if I haven't actually read this one. Um, the Colony Planet of Sao Paulo, Man Kills, Lion in the Wilderness. Oh, it's about a clone, and then I don't know him like escaping his clone in a fight. It's like a um, but I think I'm trying to remember like what the time period was and Colony Planet Sao Paulo. Hmm. I mean, I don't think that. I guess there's just no. The thing about Thousand Worlds is like, is there a reference? You know, that where we can say that it fits into the universe. Just one. Um, So for instance, for a long time, I didn't include When Morning Comes Mistfall, and then somebody noted that there was this one planet that they mentioned in that's also mentioned in the Stone City, and you're like, okay, well, there's the connection. But then he has stories like the Corpse Hunter trilogy where he claims that it's not in the Thousand World universe, and yet it shares the same worlds that they talk about those planets. So I don't know. I mean, so could it be in? I mean, I haven't read it because it was like a collaboration of like three guys. I didn't read it, um, but I don't know. Uh, Maybe I should sometime. You know, I usually say that I've read almost everything by George R. R. Martin, and then I haven't read Hunter's Run. Um, let's see here.
Hey,
Back. Yeah.
real quick, if you don't mind.
Mm, yeah.
Oh, whoops! I have you muted here. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Guess what I read last night in one go? Meat House Man.
What? Why did you read Meat House, man?
Someone was saying to me, I was having a conversation with someone about how someone asked me a question about how they've asked me, like, out of all the George's works, like, have you like gone through everything through every possible way, like audiobook and books and comics? Because I mentioned how I read the Hedge Knight comic, and I was talking about how out of everything Ice and Fire, I've read the books, I've listened to the audiobooks, I've read the comics. I want to go see the Harrenhal stage play. That's the one thing I haven't done. And
Mm,
the guy was telling me, like, hey, they also have Thousand Worlds comics too, like Meat House Man. I was like, oh,
yeah.
really? So
Mm-hmm.
I checked out Meat House Man. Is it just the one issue?
Yeah, I think so.
And does it end with him controlling the gladiator
Yeah.
and going back to the woman backstage? That's how it ends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yo, that was dark. What the fuck, man?
Super dark.
What the fuck?
Oh,
That
Meat House Man is
was
one of his darkest, most gut punched like stories. Plus, now keep in mind that like the short story, imagine being like having this drawn out like for a long time, because like the comic you get through pretty quickly, but in the short story is fairly long, and it's like, you know, he starts out going to the whorehouse, and he thinks that he's got like a really good corpse handler like rocking his world, and then he tells his friends afterwards, and his friends are like, dude, like, no, it taps into your subconscious mind. You're ridiculous. You were having sex with yourself. It was masturbation. And he's like, oh. And he's so disgusted by that that he swears off corpses. And so
and then
then
he
he
finds an
like,
actual woman, and
yeah.
then
And
but
then
the
he gets
sex is not as good.
right. Well, he first falls in love with a girl who doesn't want to be with him, and then he meets another woman, and yeah, the sex isn't as good, and then she leaves him for his best friend, because we're tapping into like the girl that didn't want to be with him is Lisa Tuttle, and then the
Of
girl that
course,
wants
it's
to
always comes back
yeah,
to fucking
the
Lisa Tuttle.
the woman that leaves him for his best friend is the other woman that he was dating around that time. So like, um you know, and then he and then at the end he like goes back to masturbation. Essentially he becomes the but like the masturbation is like also the it's a metaphor for George R. R. Martin's writing too, because he talks about the gladiator, like that he is the master of the gladiator show, and that everybody comes out to see him, and it's like, oh right, because you're the writer, and you're writing the gladiator show, and everybody's here to see the bloodlust that you're writing, you know.
I thought there
um
was more to this. I thought it's like because it ends with him going back, winning the gladiator fight, and then going
mhm.
backstage, and then the reveal that the woman has the thing in her head. And
Yeah,
yeah, I
yeah,
thought
he's he's
there's
he's
no
he's
more.
the perfect woman, you know, and it's like, nope, he's just created it for himself. Yeah, he's
There's
masturbation
no
is the
more. There's just the one.
that's it. Well, the Corpse Handler trilogy has two other stories in the universe, but Meat House Man is the only one that deals with that character in that story. Yeah.
Hmm.
So
God damn.
Meat House
Dark as
Man is
fuck.
one of the best George R. R. Martin stories. It's just so dark, and it's just like, oh god, it's so brutal. Now, if you are, because I know you like reading the comics, um, there are some others George R. R. Martin comics out there. Okay, there's In the House of the Worm is a comic. You can read that one. And I think Skin Trade.
1 second. Let me jot this crap down. In the House of the Worm. Gotcha. House of the Worm. And
Yeah.
Skin Trade.
Skin Trade and Fever Dream.
Oh, Fever Dream. I already have. I already downloaded that.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I got Fever Dream. I just went through Meat House, man, like in one go. Whew. God damn, that was dark as fuck. Holy
Dark as
shit.
fuck.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny because I think when I met George, some other people, some other people were around him and they're like, and he's like, oh, I really love your short stories. He's like, what's your favorite one? And this girl's like, Meat House Man. And he's like, you're a sick fuck. That's what he said to her. But it's like Meat House Man is like really good. I mean, I would say it's in the top 5 things he's ever written. Like it's so good. It's so dark. It's yeah.
No, I'll get to the other ones. I got you.
Yeah. I think you're gonna really like In the House of the Worm. It's it's just really well drawn.
Mm.
It's got really good art in the house in the House of the Worm. Okay. Let's see. Avoid anything but taxes. I mean, taxes are fine. Taxes are fine. It mostly goes to good things. People don't like to believe it, but it does. Let's see here.
By the way, real quick, we got to do after G Steph comes out with his thing. We have to do a top shows of 2023.
Yeah.
And I invited Ness to come on with us, so we get
That's
another
good.
like a third person to do like the top shows. He mentioned one show that I was like, oh, that's right, I forgot that came out this year, and I forgot that Preston hates the shit out of it, and I think it's gonna be your worst show of 2023.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So you know what I'm talking
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
about?
But so I started watching something, and hopefully I'll finish it by the time I started watching Bodies, and hopefully I'll finish it by the time we do our thing.
Bodies. Which is that on? Oh, I see it
It's on
here.
Netflix. It's about 4 different police investigators
Oh, is
in
this about
4 different
the? Someone was
times.
telling me about this. Is about the dead bodies
Yeah,
found throughout time?
yeah.
Okay.
So and it's the same body. So I'll see. It's not the. It's really weird that like, and I don't know if it's just like in general, but British dramas are all kind of have the same bad acting, and I don't know why. I'm sure somebody's going to be like, "What are you talking about?" Like Downton Abbey is incredible or something, but like I don't know what it is about um, if you watch something like MI5 or I don't know, Killing Eve or whatever, and like it just like a lot of the way they portray British police or British government agents, everyone's so straight laced, and I don't know if it's like the whole like British
What do you mean? Give me an
stiff
example.
upper lip, and therefore we've got to like, but I don't know, like a lot of the characters were flat in Bodies, and I don't know if it's just that the show was flat or if it's just like everything that where they show police procedurals or whatever in British stuff is flat. So I don't know.
The only thing
Um,
British police I've ever seen is Hot Fuzz. That's the only
yeah,
thing I've ever seen.
that's not drama. So I don't know. I'll finish it up. I mean, I'm gonna finish because it's such a fascinating premise. It's based on a comic as well. Um, um, oh, Will you and Carmine do a rewatch before season 2 of Hot D? Maybe include Trey in it as well. You know, we never finished our commentary tracks that we were going to do. We got up to maybe what, episode 3 or 4?
I believe so. We got to do that again. We have to finish
It would be
that.
really fun if we had Trey too.
Yeah,
Do
no, of
on
course.
the commentary, but you know, it's harder to get Trey. He's a busy man. He's a busy
Actually, I
man.
asked him if he was busy tonight. He said yes. He was helping his father move into a new house. So, um, funny enough, the one person we should I'm going to open up the gates of hell by saying this. The one person we should really have on is
Mm.
Mr. Yagan Demands, because ironically, so if you go to the Game of Thrones Wikipedia, not this Song of Ice and Fire wiki, this the Game of Thrones
Mm.
television show Wikipedia. If you go to like episode 1 Game of Thrones, episode 1 House of Dragon, scroll all the way down, there's trivia about the episodes. Dragon Demands wrote all of that. He's
Yeah,
the
yeah,
one
yeah.
who writes all of that. So we should, if you want one guy to have on for that, it should really be him.
Yeah, yeah. um, going through. What outcome do you want to happen in Gaza? I think the most logical outcome is actually if you pay attention to what um our United States Secretary of Defense Blinken like says um and you know it's it's pretty logical good stuff for the most part. So like he says that really the Palestinian Authority should take control over Gaza, and the you know so and I can't think of anyone better to take over the Gaza than that. Um, you know, try to deal with Hamas. The thing about Hamas, you got to also remember that Hamas is not like a unified entity either. There's like its military wing, it's meta, you know, it has like social services and things like this. And so, you know, these ridiculous things like, oh well, we can't trust like the numbers coming out on like the number of dead because it's Hamas. It's like, yeah, but that's like it's like talking about like the CDC versus like DOD, you know, like very different organizations. Like they're not all connected. Um, but yeah, no, most logical outcome for me, the path forward would be, you know, the Palestinian Authority takes control. You know, I think that you should have a ceasefire. You should have the Palestinian Authority take over in Gaza, and I think you should you should start talking about a two state solution, um, and move on. Like get this fucking done. Like just fucking like aren't we all sick of this shit? Like how many more generations are we gonna have to deal with this? Like aren't we sick of this? Just fucking like hand it over to the Palestinian Authority, give the Palestinian Authority the Oslo lines, and be done. And be done. You know, like that easy. But no, it's always like, you know, we wanna actually like um not, you know, we're only going to give you 90%, and like you're going to be in these isolated communities where we have, you know, permanent like military surrounding you, and you're not going to have a border with Jordan, and you know there's going to be no connection or communication between Gaza and the West Bank, and it's just, and there's going to be a blockade still, and you're just like, oh my god, just fucking just give it to the Palestinian Authority and let them have like the full Oslo area, drop the blockade, allow them to actually have an economy, and just be done. You know, Palestinian Authority has a really good relationship with the United States right now. You know, there's been cooperation between the Palestinian Authority and America for now decades. It's they are a much you know, they're a trustworthy government right now. Just hand it over to them. Give them a fucking state. Be done. Be done. But they won't. They won't. This will go on forever. This will go on forever because people, you know, people want different things. Like some people do want like they, you need to dismantle the settlements and stuff like that. Like there's just like never going to happen, right? So like the outcome I want is which is so logical that no one will do it because you know you gotta really dismantle they need to dismantle the settlements. The settlements are horrible, but
Hmm.
they're never going to dismantle them.
Wait, are you telling me Jared Kushner couldn't solve this? I'm actually shocked.
The solution is very easy. These people that are like, oh, it's a really complicated situation. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's actually very, very easy. It's very easy. But people like to gish gallop, and people like to like try to get people to focus on random stuff, and the solution is so freaking easy. Um, but no one wants to do the solution. That's the whole thing. That's why they're like, oh, it's complicated. Oh, the thing is, like, if you've ever been to the Middle East and you know how like bargaining works, it fucking takes forever. That it's just like, oh, can I just buy this carpet? Oh, let's get some tea out, and you're like, oh god, oh man, this is if I can take forever. This carpet, this specific carpet, I don't know, but how much are you willing to spend? It's just like goes on. They talk about like people, you have to like walk away many times before they finally give you like the good price, and everybody feels bad. And it's just, and even after that, you're like walking down the street with the item that you've bargained for, and somebody runs after you and is like, what about a little more? And you're like, we already made a decision. We already made a deal. No. So when people talk about these things like, they walked away at this time from the bargaining table, you're like, that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything in like Western notions. This was the offer they made. No, it wasn't. Like this, they walked away. Well, walking away is part of bargaining in the Middle East. So like, this is the offer that they made is just not something like, if you've ever bargained for anything in the Middle East, you know that this is the offer that was made is not the offer that they've made. So it's just like bullshit. Everything's bullshit, but it's just so easy. Oslo lines, Palestinian Authority, done. Done. And that's actually like a very good deal for the Israelis, considering that like, this is a refugee population mostly that like took half of the Palestinian state. Like that's a pretty good deal. But and it would probably be peace at that point, but it won't happen because there's an element that doesn't want that to happen. No one fire blood. Allison says that there are a dozen houses south of the neck that keep the old gods. The Blackwoods are the only most powerful. The Andals brought to the Seven to Dorne. Okay, yeah, fair enough. But I think I'm trying to remember. Like, I guess we don't hear about these other houses or what they are, right? Shouldn't cat? I'm trying to think. Like Catelyn. This is the whole thing about Catelyn and the Weirwoods, right?
I know George retconned a lot of the old god worshipping in the South, but
Yeah.
didn't a lot of the old god worshipping in the South come after the Dance of Dragons with the Widow's Fair? I'm pretty sure the Widow's Fair, where you had a bunch of Riverland women marrying Northmen after the Dance of Dragons War,
Oh, you're
pretty
talking
sure
about
that helped
the
contribute.
winter wolves, the winter wolves sting.
I think it's called the Widow's Fair. Look that up real quick. I might be wrong.
Okay, it says the winter of the widows is a poetic name. Um, so many men died during the disastrous civil war that some of the women um, married There had a bunch of. So some of them. Huh. Let's see. Widow's Fair. Oh, widows fairs. Yeah, it's funny. This is kind of what we were talking about with the with in the fanfic with the all the Vale Knights talking about going into the Riverlands and grabbing lands. Um, so it says here Johanna Lannister was the widow of Jason Lannister, and oh, then this is just them ruling, but there's no entry for Widow's Fair, but I hear people talking about it. Um, but you'd think they would get together with some of the Winter Wolves that stayed down there. Is that the idea, Carmine?
To spread more worship of the old gods in the south. Yeah, the Weirwood trees, I'm sure, are all gone by then.
Yes, the idea.
Most of them, at least.
Let me see what happened to the Winter
Oh,
Wolves.
by the way, someone in your comment section actually pointed something out that I actually need to go back and check out. So apparently, in season, oh, fuck, was it season 2 or 3 of Game of Thrones? I need to go back to that comment. I also need to go back to that episode. Sansa is apparently praying at the stump of a tree, which some people would now believe was the Weirwood tree that we saw in House of the Dragon. It'd be a really
Mm.
cool connection. I need to go back to that episode and check it out.
Oh, it actually says that the Winter Wolves mostly died um, in the dance, but maybe there would be a few left. I don't know, or if some Northerners would come down afterwards during the Widow's Fair. But nonetheless, I mean, logically speaking, yeah, there should be more. There should, I mean, logically speaking, there should be lots of houses that still follow the old gods, but um, uh, you know, but I guess only some minor ones that we don't know about, and Blackwood. Um, if all the Nader voters at New College had voted for Gore, he would have won Florida. Those alums still feel guilty. That's true. um, New College of Florida. Yeah. Nader? Yeah. Um yeah, there's actually articles about that group. That's funny enough. Um oh, I thought the lamp looked like a tacky air freshener plug-in. No, this is wood. It's actually wood and glass. I mean, it's not plastic or anything like that. But it may be that uh, um, air fresheners like try to try to try to get the Middle Eastern motif or something.
You know what that actually looks like?
What's
It
that?
looks like one of those like fancy little bonfire things. You set up
Hmm.
a bonfire, and that's what it looks like. A little miniature version of that.
Yeah, yeah. Um, like the beacons on top of mountains in Lord
In
of the
Lord of
Rings.
the Rings. Yeah.
It's funny. I remember. I always think those are really funny because when I was watching Lord of the Rings with the commentary track on, I forget who it was. I think it was the actor that played the head of the Rowan, the the horse guys, right? The Rohirrim. What how do I pronounce it?
Rohirrim.
Uh, Rohirrim. I think he said that like when they were filming, they heard about this and they all started joking about like these people that because the last time the beacons were used was like a lot like thousands of years ago, which means there's like generations of people whose job is to like go up and sit in the mountains, like tending these beacons, and nothing happens. And he's talking about like these long histories of like families that are like, oh, your families are farmers, we're beacon keepers. It's just like you spend your days like like keeping those beacons like it's worse than the wall, because the wall at least has like wildlings and stuff, but these guys like they just like hang out in the mountains all day for no reason like waiting for this beacon fire. Then it finally happens and they're like, oh my god, generations.
By the way, before you continue, there was a guy that did a super chat. I think YouTube must have eaten it up. A dash of bitter, I think his name is.
Yes,
Just
dash of biter.
dash of biter.
Dash of
Biter,
no, it
bitter.
is dash of bitter. Um, my official super chat. Rowling attacked for saying that there's a difference between trans and non-trans women, defending female-only spaces. Not hateful, just important. Sorry for getting into spicy politics there early. Yeah, a lot of times, if you post a super chat before I start, like sometimes it gets eaten. I mean, this is the whole turf set like situation, right? This is the turf idea of look, we have feminism, right? And feminism are women trying to get their rights, and it the way J.K. Rowling sees trans women is that these are secretly men trying to take women's rights or trying to steal the oxygen in the room, uh, from actual like feminist causes. And it's not that it's not that the problem is this is the thing is that like it's not that I don't believe that like, oh yes, every issue steals oxygen from another issue, but J.K. Rowling is now stealing oxygen from the room by like focusing on trans people all the time. Let's say you take the premise like, okay, that the real issues, like the main issue affecting women is abortion, right? And say you really want like that issue, and now everybody's spending their time talking about trans issues, and you're like, oh no, like these trans issues are like hurting women because like now everybody's just talking about trans stuff, and we can't get a voice. Um, the problem with that is that like J.K. Rowling like is feeding into that by just talking about trans issues all the time. So it's not like she actually does care. Like, how often do you hear J.K. Rowling like posting stuff on about reproductive freedom? For example, like, does she tweet on that? Um, do we have any evidence of this? Like, I mean, she did talk about let's see here. Did she bring up like, and so it's like I don't see her see her specifically promoting women's causes. I see her attacking trans women. And so that's my problem with her. Like, really, you should be focusing in the sense that like, if you have a persecuted group, why waste your time targeting another persecuted group versus like trying to help everybody? Like, why not take the idea of like rising tides, like rise all ships, like it would be the equivalent of like the black community attacking the American Indian community, being like, well, you're getting too much aid to the American Indian community, and so that takes away like aid to the black community. Like, you don't see that like kind of stuff. You don't see American Indians being like, oh, we shouldn't be talking about black issues, we should be talking about American Indian issues. Like, like, yeah, all issues take oxygen away from other issues, but like you don't like they're both persecuted groups. Like, why would you have one attack the other? So, I just don't get it. Like, um, so I do think J.K. Rowling is hateful. Like, I've read her posts, I've read what she's written. It's spiteful stuff. She's not coming from a good place. When I read her posts, she's snarky, she's angry. Yeah, downvote me all day long, dude. Down, but like, it's like she's just mean. Like, this is one of the, like, trans individuals are some of the most persecuted people in the world. Okay, life is really hard. Life is really hard for them, and it's like you're gonna waste your time like attacking them, like as if they have like some easy fucking life. They have one of the hardest fucking lives. Um, that I mean, this is just like, I remember like at my job, like I remember there was a 6'4" huge hulking trans woman that that um that that worked back when I worked at Homeland Security. And like, yeah, people would be like, oh, who's that? And I remember going to a training on, we have something called EEO training, which is on like, diversity and protection of rights and stuff. It's equal employment opportunity. And these I remember being in this training and somebody bringing up like, oh my god, like, but there's this one guy who's like who like wears a dress, and he's like, do I really have to like treat him like a like a woman? And half the group was like kind of like chuckled and laughed. And granted, we've come a long way. That was in the early 2000s when I remember that training. But like but it just like a room of people like laughing at like the existence of trans people, and like how it was such an easy target, you know, um, and how we just all accepted it. Like, I remember fuck the first Ace Ventura movie. Carmine, do you remember Ace Ventura?
Of course, Jim Carrey.
Yeah. And do you remember the ending of Ace Ventura?
I can't say I do. It's been so long.
So Sean Young plays the villain in that, and she is Sean Young's beautiful, beautiful. And at some point, Sean Young, for some reason, is like very slutty and like is making out with everybody and has slept with everybody. And at the end, like, um, Ace Ventura finds out that Sean Young is actually a trans woman, and that she was originally a football player, a kicker for the football team. And when he finds this out, there's this like long, like 8-minute scene of him like washing out his mouth with a plunger, and like later he like, in order to prove that this is a trans woman, he strips her naked, and um, you know they discover that who they are, who she is, because she's tucked her penis and her testicles behind her, and the entire, like, everybody, like the entire Miami Dolphins team that hooked up with her is like sickened, and they're all like spitting, and they're playing the crying game theme and stuff like that. And I mean, yeah, I remember seeing that movie and I remember laughing, but like, I was young and dumb. Like, looking back at it, imagine being a trans person and like knowing that this was like the big laugh climax scene of a movie, um brutal, brutal. It's just just the simple lack of empathy of like what would you want if you were in this person's like place, you know Um, no, I've like J.K. Rowling's tweets are horrible. Like she's just she needs to just stop it. She's obsessed and she's mean and she needs to stop. Like it's not in a good place. It's not in a good place. Um, hmm. I mean, oh god. I want to say like she's had several tweets where she's implied that trans people commit sexual assault and molest people. Um, and like I've seen some very bad tweets from her. And it's just like I don't think that the I think the hiding behind that this is for the benefit of women is not really how I read her stuff. But anyway, moving on. Moving on. Papa Gigi left the house. Everything went down. What does Papa Gigi left the house? Everything went down means, Carmine.
I don't know. I think this dude had a stroke.
um, is Lady Nim Dragon X? Well, all the same. I mean, from what we know, so from what we know of the family tree, is that we've got um, coming up from Lady Nim. Obviously, Lady Nim could get an X from Oberyn. Oberyn can get an X from the Princess of Dorne, right? So we know that, like, at least in that lineage, up to the Princess of Dorne, because we know that, like, before Doran and Oberyn, a princess ruled. Um, but then going down from like Dornish Daenerys, um, Dornish Daenerys, like we kind of don't know like what who Marin Martell's like kids are. So we've got like Marin Martell in like 158. So we're talking like 100 years of like of of um of history like uh where we're not sure. So there's a possibility, obviously, because we don't know, but we have a huge hole. We have 100-year hole in the family tree to know if that like could pass. Um, oh, here we go. This is back. Preston's totally right. British dramas all have that low budget BBC feel. They're all so boring. I'm UK, but rarely watch UK TV. I'm glad I was just thinking about this. I didn't even look it up. I was like, oh man, that's just like something weird feel to it. Um, I just realized that Hot D was House of the Dragon and not Hot Damon. I thought everybody was thirsting for Matt Smith. Uh, um, I love how Preston censored the F word once and then said it in the next sentence. LOL. I never know about like censoring. I'm a pretty foul mouthed guy, and I never know what like it seems really random, like which of my videos gets flagged for like adult content, and it's mainly about like how many times I cuss in them. But like so Carmine, last week my which was one of my cleanest streams, it got flagged for content. I appealed it and I lost the appeal. I never replaced the appeal.
Which one?
The one last year, last week about
Hmm.
my last one from
Kroger?
DC. Yeah, I don't know.
Hmm.
Oh well.
You're being modest. You're not a foul mouth guy. I talk to you in private all the time. You're actually a very respectable man.
No, I might be respectful, but I'm pretty foul mouthed. I say fucking shit like every other word.
No, you don't. Not that I've noticed. But again, I was raised in Jersey, so what do I know?
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I'm from Baltimore, so you're like, this is the blind.
President, I
The
love you. We got to put an end to this Baltimore thing right now.
what are
You're
you talking
not
about?
from you're not from Baltimore like in The Wire. You're from like ooh Baltimore. You're not from like
Oh, because
Baltimore.
oh, you're from a Baltimore suburb. It's not the
Yeah, you're
same
from like the
thing.
nice area. Bro, I grew up in Newark, Ironbound section, next to the higher court projects. Tell you, you're a nice man.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's but there's something very similar to like I would say Baltimore, Philly, and Jersey kind of feel for things. Just how like sarcastic and like down on where we're from and stuff like that. I mean, good reason, but um, listen to Barristan 2 today. Great job. Just curious, do you have a plan on how you're going to handle Jamie and Stoneheart? When will we see it? It's coming together. Uh, but it's still going to be a while before you're going to see Jamie and Stoneheart. So I think if I'm thinking about like what to do next, like obviously I've got to do Quentin and Tyrion, and then I I kind of feel like handling a second Aeron chapter, but I'm not sure. But if I can handle that second Aeron chapter, then maybe Jamie and Brienne. Though people are like so dying for me to get up to the north, but um, maybe I should do. So maybe it does seem to be something that'll be handled in 2024. It does, but just trying to think about it. What I can definitively say is that, or maybe I should go to that or Cersei. I think I have a better handle on what I want to do with Jamie and Brienne than Cersei. Cersei seems really complicated, but I do know that like um, it's funny because like once I deal with an area, I kind of know where I want to go next. Like I know what I want to deal with. I know what I want to do with Hota. I know what I want to do with Sam. I know kind of what I want to do with Aeron. I know what I want to do with Tyrion now. I've come up with some really good ideas on what I want to do with Tyrion. Um, I pretty much have planned out Tyrion's story for the entire thing. But I kind of know what I want to do with Quentin and Victorian and Barristan and stuff. But yeah, yeah, okay.
Whoa, Quentin? Whoa, what do you mean? Quentin is dead. We saw his
Yeah,
body. What do you mean?
yeah, I know, man, I know, I know. But I think Jamie Brienne, 2020, yeah, Jamie and Brienne will definitely hit in 2024. But yeah, I think okay, maybe after Aaron. I mean, I don't know if I do Aaron and a Hota chapter and then Jamie and Brienne, or if I go Aaron, Quentin, Tyrion, Aaron, Jamie, or if I do Hota. I don't know. I don't know, but I think that's on the schedule for 2024. We gotta get into some Jamie.
If
Um,
you're having problems with the Cersei chapters, I know a guy who's like a longtime fan of the books. He just finished a clutch of Cersei chapters last year. I can hit him up and see if we can send him over to you.
um,
By the way, I don't know if we ever touched on this topic. That's such a weird way to phrase a bunch of chapters. Clutch
Yeah,
of
clutch.
Cersei
I
chapters.
mean, like the clutch of dragons. Did I miss UK changing its abortion policy? No, but people these are global people, people that talk about policies all over the world. So I think when something happens in America, people comment that on it. If they're whether they're whether they're living in the UK or not. I mean, somebody like J.K. Rowling is. I mean, she comments on a lot of stuff. Um, it's not contested in the UK as far as we know. Yeah, no, but if we're really talking about like women's rights and what's important for women globally, let's and what can actually be changed, like focus on that, or focus on female genital mutilation in Egypt or something, like something that would actually help like women. Afghanistan, like there's so many things, there's so many places where you know women where like globally that women have a problem. Like why focus on such a very like focus on such a very small issue that affects a very abused group. you know it's just um I just hate Americans projecting their political disputes on the world. I mean, I don't understand. Like, I don't understand the what is. I mean, on this, like, what is the logic on why, like, human rights would end at a border, end at an artificial political border? You know, like you say, like, okay, if people are getting slaughtered in Darfur, do you have no say on it? Like, do we have we just like it's not my problem. It's in a different country on everything. Are we not allowed to talk about like Gaza? Are we not allowed to talk about because it's just they're in a different country? Like we all talk about stuff. We're in one world where we're all talking about people's rights. I don't understand the idea that you would feel not obliged to talk about affairs in another country. Like what makes one think that it's not? Like what's the logic on why I should not have an opinion on other people's countries? You know, I don't understand the privacy issue. Like what? Why? Um, um, could Gary and Lannister, the real Corsair King, return to King's Landing after Kevin's death, mirroring the Asha Euron power struggle? Hmm. Um. I definitely, I've played with this idea that Gary and Lannister was the Corsair King, um, and I think it's one of those things that maybe George seeded. I don't know if there's enough time in the story to deal with like something as revolutionary as Garion's return. Um, like as cool as it was be, and like Garion gets so many mentions in A Dance with Dragons. Um, like of what would happen if Garion returned. But to like a regular like reader, wouldn't they feel like this character kind of came out of nowhere? More so than even Aegon. Like Aegon kind of comes out of nowhere, right? And then you'd have another character just come out of nowhere. Um, in the sixth book to totally like take control of House Lannister. Um, it'd kind of be a bit much. I don't know. Carmine, what do you think about what do you think about Gary and Lannister? Didn't you do a video on Gary and Lannister?
How the fuck do you remember that? How the fuck do you remember that video? Holy
Oh
shit.
yeah, you
Oh
did
my god,
do
that
a
was
Gary and Lannister
so
video.
so cringe. Ugh. By the way, I'm surprised H Bomber guy hadn't come for me. I don't know if you remember my old lore videos, because That was just
Hmm.
me copying pasting off the fucking wiki. I'll fully admit that. But no, I've always found the whole Girian. Is it Girian or Girian?
I don't know. It doesn't matter. We'll call him Firian.
I always liked the idea that the dude just sails into the Ice and Fire version of the Bermuda Triangle and you never hear from him ever again. I've
Yeah,
always had this like fanfic idea of doing that Girion goes into the Smoking Sea and something happens and he ends up all the way on the ass end of the fucking world in a shy or something and he has
yeah,
adventures there
yeah.
trying to get back.
I mean, I think that I have an idea of what I want to do with the fanfic. I kind of want him.
Bringing Girion back.
Yeah, well, not as a major thing, but like, I just kind of I feel like Victorian. I think that there might be a fun little thing of Victorian running into him in like the Summer Isles or something.
What?
Uh huh.
Girion's just chilling in the Summer Isles? That'd be cool.
Yeah, I know. Right? Yeah, and like just some sort of then they have a discussion about something. I just think it might be interesting. Um,
Wait. Was Girion a part of the war against Balon Grey, the Greyjoy Rebellion? Was he part of that?
yeah, I think he was.
That would be fucking cool if you, in the fanfic, the reason Victarion knows Girion is because they fought briefly in that battle, in a battle during the Greyjoy Rebellion. Because why would Victarion knows what Girion looks like? Unless they've met before, maybe.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, 291 is when he goes on his quest. I mean, he leaves fairly late in the story, considering that like the story begins in 298, that he only leaves like 7 years before the story begins. Um, so it's kind of
291. So when's the Greyjoy Rebellion? Greyjoy Rebellion.
283.
Oh, okay.
Hmm. No. I'm sorry. 289.
289, I see it here.
283 is
Yeah,
Robb.
no, so Girion could have definitely been a part of the Lannister forces during the Greyjoy Rebellion. He could have fought Euron or
That's something to think
Tyrion.
about. Because I hadn't considered that. In my mind, I had this like meeting between them where he was like where Garion was living as like a hermit or something on the Summer Isles, and everyone called him like the golden, the golden hermit or something, or the blonde hermit or something strange like that, the white hermit. And then Victarion is just like pull this guy in. I want to talk to him, and then he like comes, and then he's like, who the hell are you? And they have a conversation about like life or something, and then and and we never even like say definitively that it's Garion, but like you get the kind of a notion. But that'd be another thing of like he recognizes the dude, and he's from battle. But I don't
They
know
have a
what
mutual respect for each other because they fought each other to a standstill or something. Like
the
mutual
pro- the
respect.
the thing is, I don't know what Victarion did after Fair Isle. Was he in? Like I know what happened to Aeron, but like did Victarion go to prison? Did he get captured and it is the question. Um, because he was defeated by Stannis at the sea battle off of Fair Isle, and then like what happened. Is he?
Oh, it says here, once again from the
It said
wiki, it says
Aeron was
here,
a prisoner, but we don't know if Victarion I guess got away.
I mean, you could have a whole thing where maybe Girion rescues some Ironborn and puts him in prison instead of letting him drown or something. You got to have Victarion having some respect for Girion
Yeah, it's
for
interesting.
some reason.
Hmm. Because you're right that Garion should have fought. He would have fought in that war. He would have fought in that war. Um, and the fact that he sails his own ship and goes off sounds like he would have his own. He he would have, you know, some experience with ships. But then again, the Lannister fleet was burned, so I don't know. Huh. Um. Um. Quentin is Jesus. Everybody's Jesus. Oh, pressing your open to receive random fanfic ideas. Of course. This is why I have like open. I mean, the thing is, everything is changeable. You know, like if I hear good ideas, like it instantly changes. That's the great thing about the fanfic is that you get all these entries and there's a whole bunch of really great ideas throughout, and you get to pick all the great ones and put them all together. But that's what I love. You know, so I'm definitely Earth. Do you hear that?
What the what
Yeah,
is that?
that was random music beginning on Westeros or on the wiki.
Sounded like the '80s sex scene
I know,
music.
right? It's like some porno scene there. Um, let's see here. Were you a young man when they filmed The Wire in Baltimore, with like 5,000 locals involved? How do you remember that impacting the city? Um, I don't know. I've told you. I've talked about this before, but so I left Baltimore before they started filming The Wire. The Wire, you know, was filmed in the 2000s and on. I was young when I was a young man is when they were doing Homicide: Life on the Streets and like Homicide the book and stuff like that. But the but one of my best friends from high school was an actor in The Wire, and so um, and so there was a little bit of like I once came home uh, and went out with that friend to a house party and in fact I went to a few house parties at different times with him with PJ, and it was really weird because we would go into a house party and everyone in the house has seen The Wire, and they're just like, why is Ziggy from The Wire here? You know, and it's been like many years since The Wire's been on the air, and it's just like, why is Ziggy from The Wire here? You know, and like there's always one person at the party that's like, oh my god, oh I love you, and he's, you know, and it's really weird, you know, because for him it was like, I did that role like years ago. They haven't seen anything else I've done, you know. At that point, he'd been in Generation Kill, and he was like, they don't even know me for Generation Kill. No, it's like today. It's like he could be like, oh, they don't know me for being an It, you know, and he's like, no, they still just know you from as Ziggy from The Wire. He's like,
Ziggy
fuck.
was an it? No way.
What are you talking about? You're like, no way. Like, I don't know where my friend PJ's been. Yeah, he was in It.
PJ, you've been in fucking. Let me see this. He was in it? When?
Yeah.
The adult. Oh shit, my man. It's funny. They know him from as Ziggy from The Wire, but Ziggy was the most annoying character.
Oh yeah, and he played that kind of. He still always he gets typecasted as that character over and over again. He's gotten very good at that character. I mean, he's kind of that character in Generation Kill. He's kind of that character in It, you know. But yeah. But how did it impact the city? I mean, and it didn't really impact the city like economically, but it's a show that like everybody saw, and so everybody talks about it, and you know, it's it's I mean, it's just kind of the same. Like, how did the ER affect Chicago or Cheers affect Boston? You know, it's kind of that question. You know, like substantively, in no way at all, but in like a pop culture sense, like in every way. You know, like and it affected also like traveling internationally. Like no one would know where Baltimore was, so I used to just tell people I was from Washington D.C. and now people know where Baltimore is because you know they've all seen The Wire, so it's kind of funny. Um, but
Not trying to be
yeah,
an asshole, but like The Wire does not make Baltimore look like a fun place. It really does
no,
not.
Baltimore's not a fun place. What are you talking about, dude? First of all, like it makes it look much more alive than it is. Like the one thing about Baltimore that it doesn't really portray is that there are entire blocks of Baltimore that are boarded up, like entire blocks. Um, and I'm not talking like deep within the city. I'm talking you go 2 streets, 3 streets past MLK, and it's boarded up for a block, 2 blocks, 3 blocks, and you're like, oh my god, like no one lives here. I mean, that's my town, you know, but like, it's 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 shocking. It's utterly shocking to drive through West Baltimore. Um, uh, it's out of control. It's hard to really describe it without seeing it yourself.
Funny
Um,
enough, that's not the most dangerous place in America. I was just looking at a graph, or not a graph, a chart the other day. Apparently, the most dangerous place in America is a place called Bessemer, Alabama. You ever hear of that?
Oh no, no, but I haven't. But I have heard that like the big myth now is that like blue cities have the highest crime rate. That actually these like cities in like random southern towns like you know actually have like higher crime rates. You know.
Somehow I doubt that. Somehow I feel like there's a lot of small red towns that have a lot of crime that just go unreported because nobody cares.
Yeah. Um. Man. The trans talk got crazy heated in this
By the way,
thread.
I have a question from someone for you that I find funny. I feel like maybe you might have answered this in your Brienne video, maybe not.
Mm,
Mr. Ben, the producer, says he loves how Brienne is always referred to as Brienne of Tarth in the books, never
mm,
Brienne Tarth. Just a really weird choice. Is this just a really weird
hmm.
choice, or is George's choice?
It's a George choice because it's the same in the it's the same in the book. She's never called Brienne Tarth, even though that is her surname. Um, I think it's something to do. It's something oddly with the island or something. You know that the island being Tarth and the the house being Tarth as well. You know, trying to think of another example that would be like similar, and I can't think of any. Right where the island and the house have the same name, because like Bear Island is the Mormons, right? The Arbor is the Red Wines. Oh, the weird one about the red wine. The red wines is also really odd because we don't know the name of their city or their castle, which is really weird, right? That's one where it's like, well, what do you call them? Oh, it's House Red Wine of the Arbor. But yeah, but the Arbor's like, what's your castle? Like, okay. So yeah, Tarth. I mean, Tarth has Evenfall Hall, but Even Star. No, Evenfall. Evenfall. He's the Even Star, but um, uh, but it's it's yeah, it's Evenfall Hall. I got it. I don't know why I was being insecure. Um, the so um uh, but yeah, I don't know. It's just a weird curiosity that it's always Brienne of Tarth. I don't know why. I'm trying to think any other islands. Estermont. That's not the same island, you know. Um, I don't know. There's no other example, right? Of
Harlaw?
like, what's that?
Harlaw?
You got it. It's Harlaw. You're right. The
I'm gonna
Iron
delete
Isles.
someone else on in the stream chat said it, but I'm gonna delete his comment here so I take the credit. Sorry, buddy. Fuck you.
And Pike. Well, Pike, not exactly, but oh yeah, Harlaw. Um, but they say Harlaw. They don't say like of Harlaw. But Black Tide is another one. But they also use Black Tide and not of Black Tide. Orkmont of Orkmont. You know. Um, I don't know. Is that Preston? You've seen House of the Dragon? You've seen House of the Dragon? I think I think I've seen House of the Dragon. You seen House of the Dragon, Carmine?
Fucking ban this guy.
Yeah, yeah. Homicide. Lots was fantastic. If you're a fan, what was your favorite character? I didn't actually watch Homicide. I maybe I only saw like a couple episodes. But wasn't Homicide? Didn't Homicide have the character from, or maybe it was just a crossover? But I want to say like the character from the Richard Belzer's character from Law and Order. Wasn't he? I think his character came from Homicide and then crossed over to Law and Order and then stayed with Law and Order. Because I think he was originally a character on Homicide: Life on the Street. Um, but the thing is, so Homicide um, was by David Simon, and David Simon, he originally wrote a book called Homicide, and then went on he went on to do um, Homicide: Life on the Street, and then The Wire. And I met um, David Simon when I was in high school. He came to talk at my school, and he was talking about Homicide. And I remember him talking about, because he was a journalist, and then he got in. He was he a cop for a while? No, I'm sorry. He was the journalist, and then his partner was the cop, and then they both became like writers. And he but I remember him talking about being embedded with police for a while. And I remember, I forget if I asked him or somebody else asked, like, what was the big difference between like what we see on TV with cops and cops in real life. And he's like, one of the things that you see in TV is that the cops will arrive and they'll really care about their cases in an emotional sense, and they'll be like, "Oh my god, this guy got murdered, and we got to find this killer." Or they'll like look under a sheet at a dead body, and they'll cringe, and they'll be like, "Oh." And he's like, they don't do that in real life. Like in real life, this is their job, and they do this every day, and they are emotionally very distant from their work, as anyone would get if you did it every day and day in and day out. He's like, if this happened to anybody like in their personal life, like sure, they would be emotional, but like these like stories of people being on of cops being really passionate about their work and wanting to find the killer, and like looking under sheets and being like, "Ah, oh, God, this is a brutal one," like no, like they were all like he said what was so surprising was just that they were so very matter of fact, routine about everything in their life, like factory workers, like bureaucrats, like every day, like this is what you see every day. So it's just like, well, who's dead today? Well, the kid, 17 years old. Da 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 da. Okay, let's log this and this and this and this. Like, there's just no emotion to anything. And he said that was the thing that was like most shocking about actually being embedded with police. But um, that's I just remember that so much because it's ruined now all crime procedurals for me because I'm just like no one hospital shows were already because my father was a doctor. Like hospital shows were already ruined for me because the doctors are like, we got to save this guy, and it's like they're doctors. This is every day. Like they're not going emotionally crazy about like every case, But um, uh, does Melisandre think that Stannis is dead? Thinking about the burning of Shireen, maybe accidentally resurrecting Jon. So this is a pretty common like idea in the fandom. Like even before Shireen was burned in the show, um, there was a fan headcanon belief that Shireen was going to get burned, that she was going to get sacrificed for to resurrect somebody, to resurrect maybe Stannis and accidentally resurrect Jon. This was something that like the fan community had like come up for a long time. And I thought it was a little cruel and crazy. Like, how would this happen? Like, Selyse is there. Would Melisandre really do this like on her own? Like, where's Stannis? Like, Stannis isn't even anywhere near there. And so I disbelieved this theory and I thought it was bad. And then when they announced that, like, turns out I was wrong, or George had told them that Shireen was going to get burned, and I was like, oh, that fan theory turned out to be kind of correct. So, um, but is it Melisandre? But the one difference was, I think George told Dan and Dave that Stannis would burn Shireen, not Melisandre. So the fan theory is that Melisandre was going to burn Shireen to bring back Jon, and now it became very clearly that it was Stannis. Stannis was going to do it. So apparently, in George's original plan idea, Stannis was going to somehow make it back to the wall and burn Shireen, which tells us a lot. That means that like he survives the Battle of Ice or something. Some people say, well, maybe it's Stannis's orders or something, but I don't know, you know. But it sounds like Stannis somehow returning to the wall and burning Shireen is like the original plan, but I don't know how that works timeline wise. Like it's like a month trip to the wall. Like how is that going to happen? But I don't know, maybe. Um, but this was the idea that somehow the burning of Shireen would resurrect Jon somehow. I think if it happens, the thing is George is never that clear about it. So I think what would happen is that Shireen would be burned and then Jon would come back and readers would be left debating what was the causation, like what did it. Like there'll probably be like several things, uh, that where you think about it, and then Jon would come back. Kind of it was the same thing with Catelyn, right? Like we don't know if it's Thoros of Myr or if it's Arya, right? There'd be another factor that would make it unclear who exactly did it, but somehow it happened. Um, but I think that might have been George's plan. I don't, in practice, I don't think that he would be like, say Winds of Winter does come out. I don't think it's going to be like that because I don't think logistically it would actually work, and I think George would eventually realize logistically it doesn't work. Um, but that may have been, I think it may have been his original plan, but um, do, 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 do. Everybody with the islands. Um, If you could live in a book or movie universe, which would it be and why? If you could have any profession in A Song of Ice and Fire, what would it be and why? I mean, I would live in the Star Trek universe. I mean, hands down, that's the best universe. Can you think, Carmine, of a better universe to live in than the Star Trek universe?
Yeah. The Pokemon one. No war. Everything is pretty much taken care of. Like electricity is solved because you have the Magnemite and
Yeah.
Voltorbs, and you know it's pretty
I'm just
much
saying, in
done.
the Star Trek universe, you can travel across the galaxy to different worlds. Like, society's doing pretty well, you know? Like, it's a pretty fun, interesting, wonderful universe to live in, the Star Trek universe.
Well, not if you live in Borg territory, or if you happen to be a Bajoran during the Cardassian occupation.
Not that there's
That
not
would not be fun.
war. Oh, you're saying Pokemon, everybody's doing great. Like, the
Everyone's
worst you
doing
can
great.
be, like, the worst situation is that you're somehow born to be part of Team Rocket, and you've got to be like, "Ooh, Ash beat me again." Like, that's the worst. Like,
Even Team Rocket doesn't even have to be in the criminal organization. Everything is done for you. Pokemon do literally everything for you. You could just chill forever.
it's true. It's true. And, and, and every woman is an anime character. So, it's like, okay. Hmm. How is Moat Kalin's situation geographically possible? Shouldn't there be like beaches on at least one side? Is there like an analogy in the real world? Like a marsh on an isthmus? Huh. Hmm. Um. Okay. I think maybe the best example might be Panama. Um, because like Panama is a very marsh-like area, incredibly unpassable. Like, I don't know if you guys know about the Pan American Highway. So the Pan American Highway. I mean, it's funny is because it technically runs through America, and we never think about it. But so there's a highway that goes, essentially from all the way from the high north all the way down to the end of Tierra del Fuego. However, as you can see right here, there is a break in the Pan American Highway, and that is because this area of Panama is incredibly marsh-like and jungle, and it's completely impassable and impractical to build a road, and they still to this day have not done it. So this is actually one of the reasons why Panama was able to um, uh, gain independence from Colombia. Also, another thing is that Panama used to be part of Colombia, and then because the United States interference, the United States came in and was like, "Why don't you declare independence?" And the Panamanians were like, "Okay," because you're completely 100% defendable position. The Colombians can't do anything, um, and so Panama declared independence, and it allowed U.S. built a canal through there as a result. Um, but like the Colombians couldn't do anything. You can't get any forces through this marsh, right? So Panama seems to be the closest thing. In fact, Panama's an even worse situation because at least with Moat Kalin, there actually is a road that you can go through. um, but there's definitely some weird. I would say the weird things with Mokalan is the fact that there's all this like volcanic rock there. That doesn't make any sense. Like all the blocks are like black stones and volcanic rocks. It's just that just like doesn't make any sense. Um but yeah, should there be, I mean, could it be like Panama where it's just marshy on both sides? I think so. I think so. Um I think the bigger problems they talk about Dorne being unrealistic, or the fact that there's no volcanoes on Westeros other than the Dragonmont, you know, as being one of the weirder things. That there should be more, uh, but I don't. I think Mo Kalen seems to be okay because we have Panama as an example. Yeah. Um, have you ever been to the Kennedy Library in Boston? Amazing. I have not. I've only been to Boston. I mean, I've only been to Boston like one time. Um, so I don't know too much about it. So sorry. I'll never believe that Stannis would burn his daughter. Might not, but he would not be okay. Someone might, but he wouldn't be okay with it. But wouldn't it be cool if they burned Shireen and she lives? Yeah, I mean that's one of the reasons why I hated the Shireen gets burned, and I think that's why most people thought that like Melisandre would be doing it while Stannis was be gone. You know, the idea is, oh, she sees this the pink letter. She thinks she can bring Stannis back. She burns Shireen because she has King's blood, and then accidentally resurrects Jon. But it was very clear that it was Stannis burns Shireen, is what George told Dan and Dave. Stannis um, burns it, which is the thing that like I don't know how logistically you can get that done. Um, my mom loves Law and Order, and my dad, a litigator, always explains how unrealistic and melodramatic it is. That said, he does love Thank You for Smoking. Well, I mean, I think that goes with everything. Like, I mean, obviously, like in the real world, people, if you do something enough, you become, you know, kind of not emotional about it. And but they add all these things for drama. You know, you can't. Um, our friend over at History Buffs, uh, you know, has a whole channel. About, Nick Hodges has this whole channel about what's realistic in movies and what is actually follows history. Like he'll take a movie and then he'll study the history of that topic really in depth, and then talk about what the movie got right and wrong when it comes to history. But the thing is, like, you history is actually boring. Like one of the things that actually historians look for when it comes to like whether something is realistic is like, you know, if a story sounds dramatized, they assume it is dramatized and that the truth is something else. You know, um, that like they actually like it helps them like come to a theory of the truth by like picking a more boring version of what actually could have happened, a more logical and boring thing. But very few events in history are actually very dramatic. Um, you know,
Fun fact about Nick's videos: he hates hates Mel Gibson movies because a lot of
oh
them are
oh
historical.
that's
His
pretty apparent in his videos
I
because Mel
love Nick.
Gibson like decided to do all these historical movies and he's just he plays with it so much.
There's a
Um,
third one he did that's historical. I know Braveheart and I know The Patriot. There's a third one he did. Oh, was it
Apocalypto is,
Apocalypto?
um, but there's more. Uh, but
Passion of the
Apocalypto,
Christ, I think he was
Passion of the
behind.
Christ, yeah.
Hey, by the way, let me ask you a Passion of the Christ. You've seen, of course, I'm assuming you've seen Passion of the Christ.
I have not seen Passion of the Christ, but you can ask me about it.
What? Did you notice how the devil in Passion of the Christ kind of looks like Obama? Did you ever see that? Look it up. I swear to God, he kind of looks like Obama.
Huh. I
I
mean,
might have to send this to you.
no, I'm looking it up. I'm looking it up. I'm just saying, oh, I don't think he looks like Obama at all.
Not the white guy. There's another one.
Oh.
There's another version of him.
Oh. Okay,
A little
now I
bit,
see what
right?
you're talking about.
The hell
The
is that?
the Obama Satan lookalike? Here he
Yeah,
is.
that's like the whole article is written on that. That's so random.
Um, but the thing is Passion of the Christ that came out in 2004. That's like well
I know. It was
before
like
Obama was it was on the
very
scene.
very well before Obama was on the scene. It's just a weird random coincidence.
Yeah, I mean I can see that. It's really weird. It's really weird.
A
It's a really
little
weird
bit.
one, man.
Ah, Obama. Wait,
That's
wait.
weird.
Put up my picture. Put up my picture so people can see Obama in case they forgot who he is. My picture's on the.
Let's see here. Hold on a second.
Yeah, there's a little bit, just a little bit like just a little bit, just a little bit.
It's crazy.
I fucking love that Obama. By the way, for a little bit of lore, the reason I have this Obama picture is because years ago I used to troll right wingers on Facebook and Twitter, and every time I would say something, they would get upset, and then I would post the Obama laughing thing, and they would get even more upset. I don't know. They just Obama really just triggers a lot of fucking people.
Well, it's funny like it's funny those pictures when taken out of context. Like I've told you about the triggered liberal woman like picture and like this one, this one that they show all the time. You know what I'm talking about? I brought you like what's funny is like in this video, she's actually like really chill. She's like and she's not even like the main person debating. There's these two people debating and she's like, well, da 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 da, and she's actually really relaxed and chill. But for some reason, at
That's
this like,
actually not the. I hate to break it to you. That's not the one that a lot of right wingers love to throw out. They like to throw out the other one when Hillary lost, and that one woman is yelling "no" at the top of her lungs.
yeah, but like, what's funny is that like in the original video, it's just like she's not even she's this poor woman like she was like complete she was like this chill hippie and she's like well gee and she kind of did this like animated thing well geez if you do this and that was her like thing like geez you do and then they got it like a clip like boom triggered lib ha ha you know that's it but it's so funny. um so what do you do if the Winds of Winter is finished before the fanfic? First of all, I'd be very, very, very happy if the Winds of Winter would be finished. Oh my god, that would be like so much fun. I mean, one, I could stop stressing about the fanfic, but and two, like you know, but also like, oh my god, all the fun we would have like with Winds of Winter, like oh god, I could do a live stream on every like going through every single chapter, and it would take me like years, like just dissecting it. I could do like two a year, two a week, and it would still be like so much like and like imagine how like also imagine how many people would be like viewing my channel of like me going through like doing a live stream reading through the book and analyzing and talking about each little like sentence like oh my god like it would be crazy, it would be crazy incredible, it would be wonderful if the Winds of Winter would come out. It would be so great, it would be so much fun. Carmine and I would be having so much fun talking about it, shooting the shit, laughing about it. It'd be so good. All the
Well,
theories.
you're talking about if the Winds of Winter is released and how you would cover that book, but there's two other things that you are going to do. I know you well enough to know this. The other thing is you're going to start on A Dream of Spring fanfic. We know that because George ain't finishing that bitch. So you're gonna start on the Winds of Winter. I'm sorry. You're gonna start on the Dream of Spring fanfic, and the other before you start on the Dream of Spring fanfic is you're going to finish Winds of Winter, then you're going to go back and read Winds of Winter again, and then you're gonna go back and compare George's Winds of Winter with your Winds of Winter fanfic, and to see what you guys like maybe
Got
matched
right and
up on.
got what we got wrong, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be pretty fun. That's all.
And
Oh
then
my
you'll
god.
start the Dream of Spring fanfic.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. And it's getting really late. I gotta fucking finish up here and then fucking go to bed. Jesus Christ. We've been on fucking 3 and 40 minutes. 3 hours 40 minutes. Okay. Please no more fucking super chats. Um Brienne killed Renly, changed my mind. Cat hallucinated the shadow. Brienne was warged. Kat says it was Stannis first. Brienne jumps on with zero reason. Um, I do think it's a little weird that Brienne assumes that it was Stannis just because Kat says it looked like Stannis. I mean, it is a big jump. I have to go back and reread how Kat describes that. I admit that's a little weird. It's a little weird that she jumps on like, oh yeah, it was Stannis. I mean, she's like looking for an excuse. Um, like, be a little more skeptical before you dedicate your life to hunting down a human being and murdering them. You know, like, unless Brienne also saw it, but that somehow a shadow looks like Stannis. How does a shadow look like somebody? I remember being in like third grade and like the teacher did these like sketch outs of people, and I totally got myself wrong out of a like a silhouette sketch. Um, um, but Brienne being warged is a little tougher because we kind of know from the Vermeer Six Skins that like it's incredibly difficult to warg skin change a human being. Hodor is an exception, and for very big reasons. Either he would screwed him up in the first place, or he became mentally challenged, or Bran being the most best skin changer ever. So that's the harder part. Um, but I will admit it's a little weird for Brienne to jump on that train of it being Stannis. I have to go back on that because fuck, like, man, a shadow, like he's invisible. I know that the thing that kills Renly is invisible, and then for like the shadow to look like Stannis, that's just not very much of a good identifier. Like, oh well, the shadow of that thing. Like, what? How are you identifying Stannis's shadow? Um, that seems a little weird. Um, it was only King's shadow. There was a shadow with a sword. I swear. Are you blind, girl? Help her. Um, Cat didn't want to speak of the shadow. It's hard for me to find. But man, it's just like that's just not much of like imagine like going to Stannis and being like, this is the evidence against you, and you need to die. Your like a shadow of an invisible warrior looked like your shadow. Like Stannis himself doesn't believe that he killed Renly. Like Stannis believes that he's innocent, even though it was probably Stannis' subconscious. So like it'd be really weird, like, to be like, but I didn't kill Renly. What are you talking about? Like I don't know what you're talking about. Um Oh well, I can't find it, but whatever. That's a little weird. Did you like Lost season one? Then they lost the way. I guess I saw the first few episodes of Lost season one and I liked it. It was pretty fun, but I don't know if I did anymore. But I didn't watch very much after that. Just those first few episodes that I kind of liked. Um, and uh, and now that's it. Thank you everyone for being with me. Thank you, Carmine. It's late, and I got to work tomorrow. Anything? Any last words?
So, um, what's on the schedule? So, we're waiting for G Steph's Cushing Library thing. I hit him up recently, and I think he might release it soon. Maybe we'll see. Um, After the G Steph stuff we do, we're pretty much open. I kind of want to do the best shows and worst shows of 2023 with you and Ness,
Yeah, yeah, okay.
and maybe
Yeah,
one more game,
yeah, yeah. Okay. All right.
quiz
Well,
game thingy.
hit me up this week.
Hmm.
I'll bring my mic with me to Wisconsin, but um, so maybe I'll be able to do podcast recording.
How long you gonna be in Wisconsin for?
2 weeks until the new
Two
year.
weeks. You
Yeah,
have to bring your mic.
yeah. Okay, okay. All right. Sounds good. Sounds good. All right. All right. Sorry, Griffin. I said that I was done, man, but I don't think Tyrion. Of course, Tyrion's going to tell Dany to win the Iron Throne. But anyway, I will. I will talk to all. I would have given more time, but I got to go to bed. Anyway, thanks everyone. I will see you guys later. Bye.